Faisal Nazari dragged the American officer into the open by his collar, forced him onto his knees and pressed a radio against his bloody mouth. "Say your name," Nazari said. "Say it so they hear you." "Grant Mercer," the man coughed. "Do not come. Do not come. They know everything. They know your rote. They know your—" Nazari fired one round into the dirt beside his head and laughed. "Commander Walker," he said into the radio, "I left the door open for you. Come and take him." 300 meters away, 12 Navy SEALs listened to every second of it, and every one of them was already standing inside the trap. If you enjoy stories like this one, take a second to subscribe to the channel and stay with me all the way to the end. And comment the city you are watching from right now so I can see how far this story has traveled. Commander Ethan Walker did not lower the radio for 4 full seconds, and every man on that hillside watched him do it. They knew what those 4 seconds meant. Walker was not thinking about the mission anymore. He was thinking about the sound of his own name in the mouth of a man who should not have known it. "Sir," Chief Bo Danner said. "Sir." Walker still did not move. "Ethan." That did it. Walker's head came around and his voice came out flat and low the way it always did when he was furious and refused to show it. "Say it." "He used your name," Danner said. "Not our call sign, your name." "I heard him." "Then you know what that means as well as I do." "I know exactly what it means." Petty Officer First Class Marco Reyes crawled up beside them, breathing hard through his teeth, and he was the youngest man on the team and the one least able to hide what he was feeling. "Sir, that was Mercer's voice," Reyes said. "That was him. He said, 'Do not come.' Sir, he said, 'Do not come.'" "I heard him, Reyes." "So we are not going." "Right, sir. We are not going." Walker looked at him for a long moment. "Get back on your gun," Walker said. "Sir." "Get back on your gun." Reyes went. He went because Walker told him to and because he was 24 years old and had believed for 2 years that Ethan Walker was the smartest man alive, and it would be another 11 minutes before he understood that Walker had just lied to him with a look. Danner waited until the kid was out of earshot. "You are going to go get him," Danner said. "Yes." "He told us not to." "He is supposed to tell us not to. That is what a man says when there is a rifle on his neck and he still wants to die like somebody's son." "Ethan." "Bo, I am not leaving him on that road." "I am not asking you to leave him," Danner said. "I am asking you how a Tajik warlord who has never left this valley in his life knows the first name of a SEAL commander from Norfolk, Virginia." And there it was, the question neither of them wanted sitting in the dirt between them, refusing to go away. Walker put the radio back to his mouth. "Nazari." The reply came instantly, which was the worst part. It came instantly because the man had been waiting with his thumb on the button, enjoying himself. "Commander, you are quiet. I expected more from you. You are talking to a United States naval officer on an open frequency. You understand what that invites." "I understand you have 11 men and a boy," Nazari said pleasantly. "I understand your aircraft cannot fly tonight. I understand your ammunition. I understand your timeline. I understand that you were supposed to be here for 26 minutes and it is now minute 31. Walker did not answer. "Do you know how I know these things, Commander? You are going to tell me." "No," Nazari said. "I'm going to let you think about it. It will make the rest of your night much more interesting." The radio went dead. Danner said one word quietly, and it was not a word he used often. Walker stared out at the dark and made himself breathe. "He does not have 11 and a boy," Walker said finally. "What?" "He said 11 men and a boy, 12 of us. He counted 12. He counted right." So he has a list, Bo. He is not guessing. Somebody handed him a list." Danner's jaw worked once. "Then we are not walking into an ambush," Danner said. "We already walked into it half an hour ago. We just did not know we were inside it yet." Walker keyed his team net. "Viper elements, this is Viper actual. Nobody moves toward that road. Nobody. Acknowledge in order." They acknowledged in order, 11 voices, and the 11th voice was Reyes, and Reyes said, "Viper 6 acknowledged." And then he said, "Sir, are we still getting him?" Walker closed his eyes for a second. "Stand by 6. "Sir." "Stand by." It was 0347. At 0348, the mountain opened up on them from 3 directions at once, and every question about betrayal stopped mattering, because the only thing that mattered now was that Faisal Nazari had never intended to trade for Grant Mercer at all. He had intended to use him as bait, and he had waited exactly long enough for 12 Americans to walk to the center of the plate before he sprang the trap. The first burst took Reyes off his feet. He did not scream. That was the thing that stayed with all of them afterward, that Reyes did not scream. He just made a sound like a man who had been interrupted mid-sentence, and then he was down and rolling, and his rifle was 3 feet away from his hand. Man down, 6 is down. Whose voice is that? Hollis 6 is hit. He is hit. He is. Hollis, is he moving? He is moving. Sir, he is moving. He is trying to get up. Then he is not dead. Do not tell me he is down. Tell me he is hit, and tell me where. Petty Officer Dale Hollis was 28, and he had been shot at more times than he could count, and his voice still cracked when he answered. Left side, sir. Under the plate. Under the plate. Walker was already moving. Danner suppressed the high ground north. Kessner Ochoa, you own the east. Hollis, get a hand on his belt and drag. Do not lift him. Drag, do you hear me, drag? Copy. Reyes, Marco, talk to me. I am okay, Reyes said, and everyone on the net heard how not okay he was. Sir, I'm okay. I dropped my rifle. Forget the rifle. I dropped my rifle, sir. I am sorry. Marco, look at me. Look at Hollis. Hollis is going to take you out of there, and you are going to let him. That is an order. Understand? That is your only job right now. Yes, sir. Say it back. My only job is to let Hollis take me out of here. Good man. And Walker turned his face into the rocks and swore at God for 11 seconds without making a single sound. By 0351, they had lost the North Slope. By 0353, they had lost the ability to talk to anyone outside that valley, because the satellite antenna took a round through the housing, and Chief Danner held the 2 useless halves of it in his hands and looked at Walker like a man holding a dead animal. Say it, Walker said. We are deaf. How deaf? TeamNet is fine. Anything past that ridge is gone. We cannot reach base. We cannot reach the birds. We cannot reach anybody who does not already know we are dying. Backup. Backup is in Reyes's ruck, and Reyes's ruck is where Reyes got shot, and Reyes's ruck is currently 40 meters inside the kill zone. So somebody goes and gets it. Somebody goes and dies, Danner said. Sir, look at the angles. They own everything above us. Anybody who steps out there is a man who has decided to be a distraction. Walker looked at the angles. Danner was right, and both of them knew Danner was right, and Walker hated that more than he had hated anything in 11 years of war. Then we do it the old way, Walker said. Chief, ammunition. Sir, count, everyone, right now. The numbers came back over the net one at a time, and Walker listened to all of them, and his face did not change. 6 magazines, 5, 4.5, 6, 3, 3. Who has 3, Ochoa, sir? Say it again. 3, sir. I burned it on the North Slope. I am sorry. Do not apologize for shooting at people who are shooting at you. Yes, sir. Walker did the math in his head, and it took him less than 2 seconds, and he had been doing this long enough that he did not need to do it twice. At their current rate, the team had 11 minutes of ammunition. Nazari had, by the most conservative count Walker could make, 200 fighters. 11 minutes. He keyed the net. Viper, hold what you have. Aim shots only. If you cannot see him, do not shoot at him. I want every round to be a decision. Copy. Copy. Copy, sir. And then Nazari came back on the open channel, and his voice was warm, and that was the obscene part that the man sounded genuinely delighted. Commander Walker, your radio is broken. Walker said nothing. I know it is broken because I know which one of your men carried it, and I know where he is lying right now. He is the young one. He calls himself 6. Danner's head snapped around. Do not answer him, Danner said. I was not going to. Yes, you were. Walker keyed it anyway. Nazari. There he is. You want me to know that you know things. Fine, I know it. Congratulations. Now say what you actually want. I want to make you an offer. No, Incha. You have not heard it. I do not need to hear it. Your intelligence officer is alive, Nazari said. Barely. He has 1 hour, perhaps 2. You have 11 minutes. I did the arithmetic also, Commander. Come down to the road. Walk down alone. Put your rifle in the dirt, and I will let your men leave this valley alive, all of them, including the one bleeding under the plate. I give you my word. Your word. It is the only currency I have. You are wrong about that, Walker said. You have somebody else's word. Somebody American. That is the only reason you know my name, and that is the only reason you know I have 11 minutes, and when I am done here tonight, I am going to go find that man, and I am going to look at his face. There was a pause. Then Nazari laughed, and it was a real laugh, and it was the ugliest sound Walker had ever heard come out of a radio. Commander, he said, you will never look at his face. You do not have the rank. The channel went dead. Danner was staring at him. He is not a warlord, Danner said slowly. Warlords do not talk like that. Warlords do not say the word arithmetic. No. Ethan, who did we make angry, I do not know. Because a man does not spend 200 fighters on a 12-man recon team unless somebody is paying him to spend 200 fighters. This is not a fight. This is a purchase. I know. Somebody bought us. I know, Bo. And Walker turned away from him because there were 9 other men on that net who could hear everything, and there was a limit to how much truth a commander could hand out while his people were still trying to live. 14 hours earlier, in a briefing tent 9 miles behind that valley, a Marine sergeant named Claire Bennett had raised her hand and asked one question. It was the only question anyone asked that day that turned out to matter. Sir, who chose the route, Colonel Dale Hargrove, had not even looked up. Excuse me, the route into the valley, sir. Who chose it? Planning did. Which planning, sir? Hargrove looked up then. The tent got quieter than a tent full of operators is ever supposed to get, and Claire Bennett stood there with her hands at her sides and did not lower her eyes, and she was 5'4", and she weighed 126 pounds, and she was the only person in that tent who was not afraid of what she was about to be told. Sergeant, Hargrove said, are you asking me to justify a mission plan to a scout sniper? No, sir, I am asking who chose the route. Why? Because it is wrong. Somebody laughed, not cruelly, just the reflex laugh men make when a room goes tight. It is wrong, Hargrove repeated. Yes, sir. Explain. And she did. She explained it in 90 seconds without a single wasted word, and every man in that tent listened whether he wanted to or not. The valley has 1 entrance the team can use at night and 3 exits the enemy can use, she said. The high ground on the north and east is continuous. There is no break in it. That means anyone standing on it can see the entire floor and shoot at all of it. If I were them, I would not defend the road. I would let the team come all the way in, and then I would take the entrance behind them. The team would not know they were surrounded until they were already surrounded. Hargrove said, the team is going in and out in 26 minutes. Yes, sir. If nothing goes wrong, nothing is going to go wrong. Sir, they will be inside a bowl for 26 minutes with 200 meters of vertical rock on 3 sides and a storm front that will ground rotary wing support. If anything goes wrong, everything goes wrong at once. Anything else, Sergeant? Yes, sir. One more thing. By all means. There is a ridge, Claire said. West side, it is above everything. It is above their high ground. It is the only place on that entire map where one person can see the whole valley and the whole valley cannot see them. And I want it. The tent went absolutely silent. Hargrove looked at her for a long moment, and then he smiled, and the smile was worse than shouting. Sergeant Bennett, he said, do you know why they call you the Ghost? She did not answer. Because nobody can find you when it counts, Hargrove said. You are support. You will be at the rally point with the rest of the support element, and you will stay there. And if by some miracle Commander Walker needs a sniper, which he will not, he will ask for one. Are we clear? Sir, that ridge. Are we clear? Chief Danner, standing at the back of that tent, had watched the whole thing, and Danner had said nothing. That was the part he would carry for the rest of his life. He had thought she was right, and he had said nothing because she was a Marine sergeant, and he was a Navy chief, and it was not his fight, and it was at the time easier. Claire had walked out of the tent without another word. Reyes had caught up with her outside. Hey, Sergeant. Hey. Yes. That was, he rubbed the back of his neck. That was pretty brave, actually. It was not brave. It was correct. Yeah, well, Reyes grinned and dead iron. Around here, those are kind of the same thing. She had almost smiled. Almost. Petty officer. Marco. Marco, if it goes bad in there, do not go toward the road. Go west. Go toward the rocks. Why west? Because west is where I am going to be. He had laughed. You are not going to be anywhere, Sergeant, Colonel said. I know what the Colonel said, Claire Bennett had answered. And she had walked away, and that was 14 hours ago, and now Marco Reyes was lying in the dirt of that valley with a hole under his plate, carrier bleeding into his own shirt, and he had exactly one thought running on a loop through his head, and the thought was, go west, go toward the rocks. At 0402, they lost Kestner's position. Not Kestner, the position. Kestner made it out with a hole through the meat of his thigh, and Ochoa dragging him by the drag handle, and he was cursing every foot of the way, which Walker took as a good sign because the quiet ones were the ones you lost. Sir, we cannot hold this, Danner said. I know. They are shaping us. You see it, they are not trying to kill us on the north. They are pushing us south so we bunch up. They want us in one pile. I see it. So what do we do? Walker did not answer immediately, because there was no answer. That was the truth, and he had been carrying it for 6 minutes. And there comes a moment in a commander's life where the arithmetic finishes itself and the number that comes out is 0. He had 11 men. 2 of them could not walk without help. They had at this point perhaps 4 minutes of ammunition and no radio and no air and no route and no cavalry and no God in the sky willing to move a storm front 9 miles east because 12 Americans were about to die in a place nobody at home could pronounce. They were not waiting for rescue. They were waiting. Walker keyed the net, and when he spoke, his voice was steady, and every man on that net heard the steadiness and understood exactly what it meant. Viper, this is actual. Consolidate on my position. 270 degrees. Move by pairs, cover each other. Do not run in the open. They came in, one pair at a time. Hollis and Reyes last, and Hollis was gray in the face from dragging 190 pounds of man across broken ground with people shooting at him, and Reyes was conscious, which was something. Walker looked at them. 11 faces, all of them looking at him. Anybody want to say anything? Walker asked. Yeah, Ochoa said. I want to say that whoever sold us out better hope I die out here. Noted. I mean it, sir. I said noted, petty officer. Get me a count on your grenades. 2. Chief 1. Hollis. None, sir. I traded mine for Reyes ammo. Walker nodded slowly. All right, he said. Then here is where we are. There is one road out and they own it. There is high ground on 3 sides and they own it. There is no air. There is no comms. There is no relief. And in about 4 minutes, they are going to come down that slope in numbers and they are going to try to walk right over the top of us. Nobody said anything. I am not going to stand here and lie to you, Walker said. You have all been lied to by better men than me, and you deserve better than that tonight. Sir, Reyes said. Hold on, Marco. Sir West. Walker looked down at him. What? West, Reyes said. Morshu. His voice was thin, and he was shaking, and he was absolutely certain. Sir, go west. Go toward the rocks. Reyes West is a 200-meter cliff. I know. There is nothing west. She said west. The whole circle went still. Walker crouched down slowly and put his hand on the kid's shoulder. Who said west? Bennett, Reyes said. Sergeant Bennett. Marine, she said if it goes bad, do not go to the road. Go west, go to the rocks. She said, sir. She said that is where she was going to be. Reyes Bennett is at the rally point 9 miles behind us. That is what the colonel said. Yes, that is what the colonel said, Reyes repeated, and he laughed, and the laugh turned into a cough, and there was blood in it. Sir, that is what the colonel said. And Chief Bo Danner made a sound. Walker turned and looked at him. Bo. Danner was staring at the western rocks with an expression on his face that Walker had never seen there in 9 years. Bo, talk. She asked for that ridge, Danner said. What? In the tent. 14 hours ago. She stood up in front of Hargrove and every operator on this task force, and she asked for that ridge by name, and he humiliated her in front of all of us, and I sat there, and I did not open my mouth. She asked for the ridge. She said it was the only place where one person could see the whole valley and the valley could not see them. Bo, that ridge is not climbable. That is exactly what Hargrove said. The 2 men looked at each other, and then Nazari came back on the radio, and this time he was not warm anymore, And this time he was not enjoying himself. And this time his voice was fast and clipped, and there was something behind it that had not been there before. Commander Walker, your men have 30 seconds to lay down their weapons. Walker keyed it. No. 30 seconds. You already told me you were going to kill us. You do not get to negotiate after that. You spent it. 30 seconds, Commander, or I begin with your intelligence officer, and I make you listen to all of it. And Walker had no answer. That was the moment. Every man there would remember it differently for the rest of his life, but they all agreed on when it happened. It was the moment their commander had nothing left to say, and the silence went out over the radio and the enemy heard it and started moving. They came down the slope, not carefully, not tactically. They came down the way men come when they know the fight is over and they only want to be there at the end of it, and there were dozens of them. And Ochoa put his last magazine in his rifle and said very calmly, "It has been an honor, gentlemen." And Hollis put his body between Reyes and the slope without being told. And Danner looked at Walker, and Walker looked at Danner, and neither of them said anything, because there was nothing left that was worth saying. Walker raised his rifle. "Viper," he said, "hold the line until we cannot." And then from somewhere in the black rocks, 200 meters above the western wall of that valley, from a place that 11 experienced operators and 1 experienced colonel had all agreed no human being could physically reach a single rifle cracked once. The lead fighter on that slope dropped where he stood. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Ochoa said, "What was that?" The shot came again, and a second man fell 40 meters from the first, and the enemy on that slope stopped like a wave hitting a wall and turned and began looking up at the rocks. And for the first time in 38 minutes, it was Faisal Nazari's men who did not know where the danger was coming from. Reyes started laughing on the ground with blood on his teeth. "West," he said. "I told you, west." And Commander Ethan Walker, who had run out of arithmetic, who had already accepted the number 0, turned his face up toward a ridge he had been told was impossible, and understood all at once that the soldier they had left at the back of this mission had never gone to the rally point at all. The third shot came 4 seconds after the second, and Chief Bo Danner heard it and did something no one on that team had ever seen him do. He sat down. He sat down right there in the dirt with his rifle across his knees and put one hand over his mouth and said into his own palm, "She went. She actually went." "Chief," Walker grabbed his shoulder. "Chief, get up." "She went, Ethan. Get up." He told her no in front of 40 men, and she went anyway. "Bo, I need you standing." Danner got up, but his hands were shaking, and Bo Danner's hands had not shaken since Ramadi. Up on the slope, the enemy advance had come apart. Not broken, not routed, just confused, which was worse for them, because confused men stop and think, and men who stop and think in the open are men a shooter can count. 2 more fighters went down in 11 seconds, and neither of them ever knew what direction it came from. Ochoa was staring west with his mouth open. "Sir, that is not one shooter. That cannot be one shooter." "It is one shooter." "Sir, the spacing." "It is one shooter, Ochoa, and if you keep standing up like that, she is going to be shooting over your head to keep somebody from putting a round through it. Get down." Ochoa got down. At 0406, the team radio crackled, and a voice came onto their net that did not belong there, and every man on that hillside stopped moving at the same instant. "Viper Actual, this is Ghost. How do you hear?" Walker did not answer for 2 full seconds. Not because he did not know what to say, because his throat closed. "Viper Actual Ghost. If you hear me say something, because I have about 40 seconds before they figure out which rock I am behind." Walker keyed it. "Ghost Viper Actual, I hear you." "Good." "Sergeant Bennett." "Yes, sir." "Where are you?" "West wall, sir. Upper ledge, 210 meters above your floor." Walker closed his eyes. "Say that again." "West wall, upper ledge, 210 meters above your—" "I heard you the first time, Sergeant." "Then why did you ask me to say it again, sir?" And Ochoa laughed, actually laughed out loud, a shocked, ugly bark of a laugh, because there was a Marine sergeant on a ledge that 4 different officers had called unclimbable, and she was answering a Navy commander like they were standing in a chow line. "Sergeant," Walker said, "you were ordered to the rally point." "Yes, sir." "You are not at the rally point." "No, sir." "You want to explain that to me?" "Sir, respectfully, I would rather explain it to you tomorrow." Danner made a noise that was not quite a laugh and not quite anything else. Copy, Walker said. Ghost, what do you see? And that was the moment everything changed on that hillside. Not because of the shooting, because of what she said next and how fast she said it, and the fact that she had clearly been saying it in her head for the last 20 minutes, waiting for somebody to ask. Sir, you are being shaped. They are not trying to overrun you from the north. The north is a fixing element, maybe 30 guys. They are burning ammunition to keep your heads down, and they do not care if they hit anybody. Your real problem is southeast. There are 42 men in the dry cut southeast of you. They have been moving for 6 minutes. They are 11 minutes from your flank, and when they get there, you will be in a crossfire with no back wall. Walker looked at Danner. Danner said, 42. 42, Claire said. I counted them twice. Ghost, this is Viper 5, Danner said. You counted 42 men in the dark. Yes, Chief. How? They are carrying, and men who are carrying step differently. Also, 2 of them are smoking. Also, Chief, respectfully, I have been on this rock for 4 hours. The net went absolutely silent. Walker said very quietly, 4 hours. Yes, sir. Sergeant, the insert was at 0316. Yes, sir. You have been on that ledge since before we were on the ground. Since 0011, sir. Reyes started laughing again on the ground, and Hollis had to hold him down because the laughing was making the bleeding worse. She was up there the whole time, Reyes said. She was up there the whole time, sir. She was up there before. Marco, shut up. She was up there before we even. Marco. Walker keyed the net. Ghost, why did you climb at midnight? Because the ledge takes 3 hours in daylight and 5 in the dark, sir, and I wanted margin. That is not what I asked you. There was a pause on the line. Just a beat. Sir, I climbed at midnight because I knew this was going to happen, Claire said. I said so in the tent. Nobody wanted to hear it from me, so I decided I would rather be wrong on a cold rock than right at the rally point. Chief Bo Danner turned his face away from his commander, and no one said anything about it. At 0408, the first fighter figured out the angle. He did not figure out where she was. He figured out roughly where she had to be, which was enough to be dangerous. And he got about 9 men to start putting rounds into the western wall in a spray, and Claire's voice came over the net in the middle of it, and it did not change 1 degree. Viper actual, be advised I am displacing. Copy. Do not talk to me for 90 seconds. Copy. Walker did not talk to her for 90 seconds. It was the longest 90 seconds of his professional life. He filled it by putting his team where she had told him to put them. That was the part that struck Danner later when he thought about it in a hospital in Germany with a plastic cup of water in his hand. Walker did not debate it. Walker did not check her math. A Marine sergeant that command had called support said southeast in an 05 with 11 years, and a chest full of ribbons picked his entire team up and turned it southeast on her word alone. Ochoa Kessner, you own the cut. Hollis, get Reyes behind the boulder line and stay with him. Chief on me. Sir, if she is wrong, she is not wrong. Then, Bo, in 4 hours, nobody in this valley has told me one thing that was true except her. We are going with the Marine. At 4:10, 42 men came out of the dry cut southeast exactly where Claire Bennett had said they would, and they walked directly into an 8-man SEAL element that was already facing them, already prone, already ranged, and already waiting. It lasted 19 seconds. When it was over, Ochoa put his forehead down on his rifle stock and said one word over and over, and the word was not repeatable. Ghost Viper, actual. Send it. Southeast is handled. I saw. Sergeant, if you had not. Sir, do not do that now. Do that later. Right now, I need you to listen to me because there is something you do not know, and you need to know it in the next 30 seconds. Walker felt his stomach drop. Send. Your intelligence officer is alive. You can see him. I have had eyes on Grant Mercer for 2 hours and 11 minutes. Danner's head came up. Say again. 2 hours and 11 minutes, Chief. He is on the road north side behind the second vehicle. He is on his knees. He has been on his knees the entire time. They have not moved him once. Is he hurt? Yes. How bad? Sir, Claire's voice did something then for the first time. It got careful. Sir, I want to be precise because I think you are going to make a decision with what I tell you. Then be precise, Sergeant. He is bleeding from the left leg, and it is not arterial. He has been beaten badly, his face is wrong. But that is not the thing. What is the thing? They are not guarding him. Nobody understood it for a second. Then Danner said, "What? There are 200 fighters in this valley, Chief, and there is nobody within 9 meters of Grant Mercer. Nobody is holding him. Nobody is watching him. He is kneeling in the open on a road with a rifle nowhere near him, and every single man in this valley is looking at you." "Maybe they know he cannot run," Walker said. "Sir, a man who has been on his knees for 2 hours cannot run." "That is true, but an enemy that put 200 fighters in a bowl to kill 12 Americans does not leave the bait unattended." "Bennett, they are not guarding him because they do not need to guard him," Claire said. "Sir, I have been watching this for 2 hours and I have thought about nothing else, and I am going to say it out loud one time, and then you can hate me for it. Grant Mercer is not a prisoner." The net went dead silent. Walker heard his own pulse in his ears. "You are accusing an American intelligence officer of treason on an open—" "It is not open, sir. It is your team net, and yes, I am." "On what evidence?" "He spoke to you at 0344. "Yes." "On Nazari's radio, Nazari held it to his mouth." "Yes." "Sir, what did he say?" Walker did not want to answer. He heard himself answer anyway. He said, "Do not come." He said, "They know everything. They know our route. They know our—" "He said route," Claire said. "Commander, he said the word route." Danner said, "Oh my God." "A man on his knees with a rifle on his neck screams your name and screams run," Claire said. "He does not deliver a briefing. Sir, he told you they knew your route. Why would he tell you that? What was that for? It did not save you. You were already inside. That sentence did exactly one thing, sir. It told 200 fighters and one warlord that Commander Ethan Walker now believes his route was compromised." "Which is true." "Yes, sir. It is true, and it made you commit to the road. Because the second you believed you were burned, you believed the only thing worth saving was the man on the road." Walker could not speak. "He was not warning you, sir," Claire said quietly. "He was steering you." At 0413, Marco Reyes started asking for his mother. He did it quietly, and he did it while apologizing for it, which was somehow the worst thing anyone on that hillside had ever heard. And Hollis kept saying, "You are good, Marco. You are good, buddy. You are doing great," in a voice that got thinner every time. "Chief," Hollis said. "Chief, I need a hand." Danner got there in 4 seconds. "Talk." "It went through, under the plate, out the back. I have got the front packed, but the back is filling faster than I can. Move your hands." "Chief, Dale, move your hands. That is not a request." Danner got his fingers into it, and Reyes screamed once a short, high sound and then said, "Sorry, Chief. Sorry, sorry." "Do not apologize to me, Marco. I dropped my rifle. I do not care about your rifle. It was the first thing, the very first thing, and I dropped my—" "Marco." Danner got his face down close. "Marco, look at me. You are the reason we know about the West. You said West when your commander was out of ideas. You hear me? You did that. Whatever else happens tonight, that is on your ledger, and nobody can take it off." Reyes cried then, just a little, and then he pulled himself back together the way 24-year-olds do when someone treats them like a man. "Chief? Yeah. Is she really up there?" "She is really up there." "How did she get up there?" Danner looked west at 200 meters of black rock. "Kid Maharto," he said. "I have been asking myself that for 7 minutes, and I do not have an answer, and I am not sure I want one." The answer, if anyone had been in a position to ask for it, was 31 years old and started in a truck in Bozeman, Montana. Ray Bennett had been a mountain rescue specialist for 19 years. And the thing about a mountain rescue specialist is that he does not get called when things are fine. He got called at 2 in the morning. He got called in weather. And when Claire was 9 and her mother was gone and there was nobody to leave her with, he took her with him and made her sit in the truck. She sat in the truck a lot. She sat in the truck the night they brought down the 2 college kids from Beehive Basin, and she watched through the windshield while her father knelt in the snow and worked on one of them for 40 minutes and did not get him back. She was 11. She asked him about it in the truck on the way home, and Ray Bennett, who was not a talker, said the only real thing he ever said to her. "Claire, everybody up there was strong, all of them. Strongest kids I ever saw. Strong did not do one thing for them tonight. Then what does being there early, he said. You cannot rescue anybody from the parking lot. Everything else is talk. She was 11 years old and she did not fully understand it, and she never forgot a word of it as long as she lived. She joined the Marine Corps at 19 because she wanted to be there early. She went to Scout Sniper School at 23 and finished it, and she was the third woman to finish it. And the day she graduated, a captain shook her hand and told her warmly, meaning it as a compliment, "You are going to be great in a support role." That was the whole career right there in one sentence, and it took her 6 years to stop hearing it in her sleep. They started calling her the ghost in her second year. It was not affection. She knew that. It got said with a certain kind of smile, the kind men use when they have decided a person is furniture. She spent her nights on ranges when nobody made her. She kept a notebook and men made fun of the notebook. She spent 4 hours one afternoon measuring how much the wind on a specific saddle in Helmand changed between 0400 and 0600. And a staff sergeant found her doing it and said, "Bennett, what in the world is wrong with you?" And she said, "The wind changes at 0430. And he said, "Nobody cares," and walked away. She wrote it down anyway. 10 months later, a sniper team from a different battalion missed twice on that saddle at 0440, and a corporal named Ives bled out waiting on a third shot. And nobody ever connected those two things except Claire Bennett, who read the report and threw up in a portable toilet and then went back to her notebook. That was the thing none of them understood about her. She did not train hard because she was ambitious. She trained hard because she had watched a strong college kid die in the snow when she was 11, and she had decided at 11 that she was never going to be the person who arrived after. Colonel Dale Hargrove had told her the ridge was not climbable. Claire had climbed it in her head 400 times before he ever said a word. At 0416, the enemy fire on the western wall stopped all at once, and that scared Claire Bennett more than the shooting had. "Viper actual ghost. Send it. They stopped shooting at me. Is that bad?" "Yes, sir." "Explain." "Because they were not going to hit me. And they knew they were not going to hit me, but they were doing it anyway, which means somebody was making them do it, and now somebody has told them to stop. That is not a decision 200 guys make. That is a decision one guy makes." "Nazari." "Sir, I do not think Nazari is running this." Walker's whole body went cold. "Say that again." "He has stopped talking to you on the open net." So a man like that does not stop. He was enjoying it. He was enjoying it so much he told you his own arithmetic. Men like that do not go quiet at the good part unless somebody with more authority than they have tells them to shut their mouth. Bennett, there is nobody in that valley with more authority than Faisal Nazari. "I know, sir," Claire said. "That is what worries me." At 0418, the satellite radio in Marco Reyes's ruck 40 meters out in the open in the kill zone began to chirp. They all heard it. It was the sound of an incoming call on a piece of equipment that everyone on that hillside had written off as dead and unreachable, and it sat out there in the dark, chirping like a bird. "Chief," Hollis said. "Chief, is that? That is his ruck. That is our sat radio." "Yes." "Chief, that thing is ringing." "I know what it is doing, Dale." Walker stared out at it. "Ghost Viper actual." "I see it. Can you cover a man to that ruck?" There was a pause that lasted about a second and a half, and in that second and a half, Claire Bennett did more thinking than most people do in a week. "Sir," she said, "ask me the real question." "That was the real question." "No, sir. The real question is whether you should answer it." "Sergeant." "Sir, that radio has been on the ground for 30 minutes and it has not made a sound. Now the shooting stops and it rings. They want you to answer it." "They cannot make a satellite phone ring, Bennett. That is not how." "No, sir, they cannot," Claire said. "But somebody with a green badge and a valid account can." Nobody breathed. "Ghost, are you telling me?" "I am telling you that somebody who knows your call sign your route, your timeline, your head count, and the fact that your primary went down at 03:53 is now trying very hard to get you to pick up a telephone. It could be base. Yes, sir, it could be base. It could be the birds. Yes, sir. It could be exfil. Yes, sir. It could be all of those things. And if you send a man out there and it is, you will have saved everybody. And if you send a man out there and it is not, you will have given away the only thing you have left, which is that they do not know exactly where you are consolidated." Then what do you want me to do? Sir, Claire's voice did not rise at all. I want you to send Chief Danner. I want him to go low and left along the boulder line. I want him to not touch the ruck. I want him to lie down 11 meters short of it and look at it and tell me if the antenna is up. Danner said, why the antenna? Because Reyes was shot at 0349 and the antenna was struck at 0353 and you told me the housing was destroyed. Chief, if that radio is ringing, somebody put that antenna back up. At 0421, Bo Dannerlow crawled 40 meters through a valley containing 200 armed men, and he did it under the guns of one Marine sergeant on a ledge he had never met in person and had never spoken up for. And afterward, he said that it was the safest he had ever felt in his life, and he was not joking when he said it. Twice, men came close. Twice they stopped, coming close, and Danner never heard the shot both times because the wind was wrong, and he was face down in the dirt, and he only knew about it because Claire's voice said in his ear, calm as a woman reading a grocery list, Chief, you are clear. Keep going. Do not look right. He got to 11 meters and lay down and looked. Then he lay there for a very long time without saying anything. Chief, Walker said. Chief, report. The antenna is up, Danner said. Say again? The antenna is up, Ethan. It is up and it is aligned and somebody screwed the spare housing on and somebody dialed it in and it is not our spare housing because our spare is in my ruck and my ruck is right next to you. Bo, get back here. Ethan, somebody was standing over my man while he was bleeding and they did not help him. They fixed the radio and they walked away and they left him lying there and they did not help him. Chief, get back here. Somebody American, Danner said. Yeah. At 0424, the SAT radio stopped ringing. And then on the SEAL team's internal net, the frequency that only 12 men and one Marine sergeant were supposed to have a new voice came on. Viper Actual, this is Longbow. Cease fire and acknowledge. Ochoa said, who the hell is Longbow? Walker knew who Longbow was. Every man on that hillside who had been in that briefing tent knew who Longbow was, and every one of them felt the bottom of the world go out from under him at the same instant. That is Hargrove, Kestner said. That is Colonel Hargrove, Ochoa said. Sir, that is Task Force Actual, that is. I know who it is, Walker said. Viper Actual, this is Longbow, I say again. Cease fire and acknowledge over. Walker keyed it very slowly. Longbow Viper Actual. Ethan, thank God. Sir, Ethan, listen to me carefully. We have been trying to reach you for 30 minutes. We have a picture. We know your situation. Help is inbound. Sir, our SAT is down. We know. That is why I am on this net. Walker looked at Danner across 40 meters of dark. Sir, Walker said, how are you on this net? There was a pause. It was a short pause. It was maybe a second, and it was the loudest second of Ethan Walker's entire life. I am on the task force relay commander, same as always. Now listen, aircraft are 12 minutes out. 12 minutes, but I need you to hold your fire completely. Do you understand complete ceasefire because we have a negotiated corridor, and if there is any shooting, any at all, that corridor closes and those birds do not land. A negotiated corridor, yes, with Nazari. Ethan, do not editorialize, just do it. Ochoa was staring at the radio like it was a snake. Sir, Walker said, I have a man bleeding out. Then you have 12 minutes to keep him alive, Commander, and the fastest way to kill him is to keep shooting. Sir, Ethan. Sir, are you telling a surrounded SEAL team to stop defending itself? I am telling you, Hargrove said, and his voice went very smooth and very flat, that there is a Marine sergeant on that mountain who is going to get every one of your men killed, and I want her off that trigger in the next 60 seconds. The silence on that net had a physical weight. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Sir Walker said, how do you know she is on the mountain? And Hargrove made a mistake. He answered fast. Because she was ordered to the rally point, and she is not at the rally point, and I have known that for 4 hours. Danner said on the net out loud in front of everybody, you have known for 4 hours. Chief, get off this net. You have known for 4 hours that your only sniper went to a ridge you said was impossible. And you did not tell the team, and you did not tell us, and you did not. Chief Danner, you are relieved. Sir, you can relieve me tomorrow, but tonight I am 40 meters from a satellite radio with an antenna, Somebody put back up, and I am looking at it right now, and I have got one question. Sir, who put the antenna up? Nothing, not a sound. 11 men listened to a colonel say nothing for 4 seconds. Sergeant Bennett, Hargrove said finally, I know you are on this frequency. Claire did not answer. Sergeant, this is a direct order from your task force commander. Clear that ridge. Do not fire again. Come off the mountain. Claire did not answer. Bennett, I know you can hear me. Ochoa whispered, do not do it. Do not do it, Ghost. Sergeant Bennett, if you fire one more round, I will have you at a general court-martial, and I promise you it will be the end of everything you have ever worked for. Do you understand me? Everything, your record, your school, your career, your father's name on your record. Everything. Answer me. And then at 0428, Claire Bennett came on the net. Her voice was not angry. That was what got them. There was not one drop of anger in it. She sounded like somebody who had made her peace with this specific conversation a very long time ago, on a ledge in the dark at midnight alone. Longbow Ghost. Sergeant, sir, I have a question, and then I will answer yours. Bennett, sir, at 0344, an enemy commander told Commander Walker that his team had been on the ground for 31 minutes and that they were supposed to be here for 26. Sergeant, sir, the 26-minute figure was not in the brief. It was not on the slide. It was not on the printed timeline. I have the printed timeline in my cargo pocket right now, and I am looking at it, and it says 22. Nobody moved. 26 was what you said out loud, sir, Claire said. One time in the tent, at about the 90-second mark after I asked you who chose the route, you said, and I am quoting you exactly, sir, they are in and out in 26 minutes. Hargrove said nothing. There were 41 people in that tent, Claire said. So it is not proof of anything. I want to be fair. It could be a lot of things, but sir, it was the only time that number was ever spoken by anybody, and about 11 hours later, a man in a valley in northern Afghanistan said it back to my commander like he had memorized it. Sergeant Bennett, you are done. Yes, sir, probably. You are finished. Sir, I am going to fire again. Bennett, I am going to fire again, sir, because there are 40 more men moving on Viper's east flank right now, and they are 90 seconds out. And if I do not fire, they will all die, and I have thought very hard about it, and I would rather be finished than be in the parking lot. What did you say? Nothing, sir. Something my dad said. Ghost out. And she went off the net. Walker stood there in the dark with his heart going like a hammer. Sir, Ochoa said. Sir, what just happened? Ghost Viper actual, Walker said. Ghost, nothing. Sergeant Bennett, answer me. Nothing. Bennett, the rifle cracked once up on the black rock, and then again, and then again. And on the east flank, 90 seconds out, exactly where she said they would be men, began to fall. Walker turned around and looked at his team, and every single one of them was looking back at him, and he understood that this was the moment where a commander either says the true thing or never gets to say anything true again. Viper, he said, this is actual. Listen up. They listened. Task Force just told us to stop shooting. Nobody said a word. I'm not going to do that. Ochoa exhaled. I'm going to state my reasoning on this net so that it is on somebody's recorder somewhere, Walker said, because if I am wrong, I want it written down in my own voice. We were sold. I do not know by who yet. I know the route was wrong, and one Marine said so out loud 14 hours ago and got laughed at. I know our timeline was in the enemy's mouth. I know somebody stood over Marco Reyes while he was bleeding and fixed our radio and did not touch him. And I know that in the last 22 minutes, exactly one person has told me the truth. And she is not in my chain of command, and she is not in my service, and she was not invited, and she is the only reason any of us are still breathing. He keyed the net. Ghost Viper actual. Nothing. Ghost. Nothing. Sergeant Bennett, this is Ethan Walker, and I am asking, not ordering. And then her voice came back, and it was breathing harder than it had been. Send it, sir. How many rounds do you have? There was a long pause. Bennett, how many rounds? 19, sir. Danner shut his eyes. Say again. I have 19 rounds and I have used 41, and there are approximately 140 men still alive in this valley, Claire said. So I am going to need you to be very careful about what you asked me to shoot at. Copy. Sir, send it. I need to tell you something, and I need to tell you now because I do not know how much longer I am going to be able to talk. Bennett, what is happening up there? Nothing, sir. Send. Grant Mercer moved. Walker's mouth went dry. Say again. Your intelligence officer moved. 2 minutes ago. He got up off his knees, sir. Nobody made him. Nobody touched him. He stood up on his own and he walked 11 meters and he sat down behind the vehicle. And sir, he did not limp. He is hurt. His left leg has been bleeding for 2 hours and he crossed 11 meters of open road and he did not limp once. Walker could not make a sound. There is more, Claire said. Say it. When he sat down behind that vehicle, he took something out of his jacket and he put it to his ear. Bennett. Sir, he made a call. Grant Mercer is on a phone right now. And 40 seconds after he started talking, Colonel Hargrove came up on your team net and told you to stop shooting. The valley kept firing, the wind kept moving, and 11 American men on a hillside in northern Afghanistan finally understood all at once that the ambush had not started at 0348 or at 0316 or in that valley at all. It had started in a tent 14 hours ago, with a woman raising her hand and asking who chose the route. Ochoa said it first because Ochoa always said it first. Sir, she is wrong. Ochoa. Sir, she has to be wrong. That is Grant Mercer. I have met him. I sat across the table from that man in Bagram, and he showed me a picture of his kid. I know. He showed me a picture of his kid, sir. I know, petty officer. So she is wrong. Walker did not answer, and the silence answered for him, and Ochoa turned away and put both hands on the back of his own helmet and stood there like a man who had just been told something about his own family. At 0431, Kestner spoke up from the boulder line, and Kestner had a hole in his thigh and had not said one word in 11 minutes. Sir, go. When Mercer got taken 9 days ago, who knew the extraction was going to be us, Kestner? No, sir, listen. Who knew? Because I remember the tasking. I remembered it because I was annoyed about it. There were 2 teams closer to that valley than we were. Bravo was 90 minutes out. We were 9 hours out and we still got it. Danner's voice came over the net from 40 meters away, flat and cold. Somebody asked for us. Somebody asked for us, Kestner said. Who asked for a specific team from 9 hours away? Somebody who does not want the 90-minute team, Kestner said. Somebody who wants the team that has to fly all day and land tired and go in at night on a route somebody else picked. Walker keyed the net. Ghost. Nothing. Ghost Viper actual. Nothing. Bennett, answer me. The rifle cracked once up on the rock, and a man on the east flank went down at 190 meters, and that was her answer, and Walker understood it perfectly. She was not talking because she was working, and she was not going to spend a single second of breath making a commander feel better while there were men walking toward his flank. 18 rounds. Chief, Walker said, Bo, get back here, now. Negative. Chief, Ethan, I am 11 meters from a satellite radio with a working antenna. That radio is a trap. Yes, it is. Bayum, Ethan, it is a trap, and it is also the radio, Danner said, and I have got a 24-year-old kid behind me who is going to be dead in about 40 minutes if nobody comes, and I would rather be trapped and heard than safe and quiet. Chief, if you touch it, they will fix your position. They already have my position, sir. They have had it since 0348. That is the whole point. That is what we have not been saying out loud all night. They have never needed to find us. Somebody has been telling them where we are the whole time. Walker shut his eyes. Say the rest of it, Bo. Sir, you are working up to something. Say the rest of it. Danner was quiet for a second. Ethan, at 0353, the antenna took a round through the housing. Yes. 1 round, through the housing the size of a coffee can, in the dark, in a firefight. At what range? Bo, sir, what range? I do not know. Neither do I, Danner said. But I have been lying here in the dirt looking at the angles for 4 minutes, and I am going to tell you what I think, and you are not going to like it. Nobody in this valley shot that antenna. Ochoa said, what? There is no firing position on this floor that could see that antenna at 0353. It was behind the boulder line. It was in defilade. Reyes had it strapped, and he was down, and the ruck was on its side, and the antenna was pointed at the wall. Chief, are you saying? I am saying it was not a lucky round, Danner said. I am saying somebody killed that radio deliberately from close, and then 30 minutes later, when they wanted us to be reachable again, somebody fixed it. That is impossible. There is nobody out there but us and them. Ochoa, Danner said. I am 40 meters from the team on ground you all think is a kill zone, and I have been here for 6 minutes and nobody has shot at me. Nobody breathed. Why has nobody shot at me? Danner said. You want to say it is Bennett? Fine. Bennett is good. Bennett is the best I have ever seen. But Bennett has 18 rounds, and there are 140 of them, and she cannot cover 40 meters of open ground for 6 straight minutes with 18 rounds. Then why? Because they were told not to, Danner said. Because somebody in this valley has a lane and we are all standing in it, and they have been told to leave that lane alone. At 0434, Marco Reyes stopped talking. It happened without ceremony. Hollis was in the middle of a sentence saying something about a bar in Coronado, and Reyes just stopped answering, and Hollis said his name 3 times and got nothing. And then Hollis's voice came over the net at a pitch none of them had ever heard from him. He is out. He is out. He is out. Chief, he is out. Breathing. Yes, yes. Shallow, but yes. Then he is not out. He is unconscious, and unconscious is a condition, not an ending. Talk to me. Skin. Cold. Lips. Chief, I cannot see his lips. It's dark. Dale, put your hand on his chest. Count for me. Out loud. Hollis counted, and it was fast, way too fast, and everybody on that net could hear him counting, and everybody knew what the number meant. 38, Hollis said. Chief, 38. Nobody said anything. Chief, 38. I heard you. Chief, what do I do? And Bo Danner, lying 11 meters from a satellite radio in the middle of a valley containing 140 men who wanted him dead, made the decision that ended his career and saved his soul, and he made it in about a second and a half. Ethan, he said, I am going to answer the phone. Chief, do not. Sir, I am going to answer the phone, and you are going to be very glad I did, or you are going to bury me. And either way, you are going to know something you do not know right now. Bo, listen to me. Ethan, that kid is at 38. Walker stopped. Do it, he said. Danner crawled 11 meters and got his hand on the ruck at 0436, and the moment he touched it, the entire valley did nothing at all. And that was the most frightening thing that had happened all night. Not one round came at him. Ethan, go. They are letting me. I know. Sir, 140 men are watching me sit up in the open next to a radio, and not one of them is shooting, and I want that on the record. It is on the record. Do it. Danner powered the handset. It connected in under 2 seconds, which meant it had already been dialed in, which meant somebody had already done the work. And Danner felt something go through him that he did not have a name for. This is Viper 5. Chief Danner. Hargrove, instantly, warm. Thank God. Bo, thank God. Sir. Bo, listen to me carefully. Where is Ethan? And Danner, who had spent 19 years being a good chief, who had never once in his life lied to a senior officer, heard himself do it without any effort at all. He is down, sir. There was a pause. It was a very small pause. And in it, Bo Danner heard something he would testify to under oath 11 weeks later in a room in Virginia with a stenographer and 4 lawyers and a flag in the corner. He heard Dale Hargrove exhale. Relief. It was relief. He had asked where Ethan Walker was, been told he was down, and the first thing his body did was relax. Bo, Hargrove said, and his voice had changed by maybe 2%. Bo, I am so sorry. Listen to me. Listen. You are in command now. Yes, sir. You are in command, and I need you to do exactly what I say, and every man out there lives. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Where is the team consolidated? And there it was. Bo Danner sat in the open in a valley in northern Afghanistan and listened to an American colonel ask him for a grid. Sir, he said, you told me you had a picture. Silence. Sir, you said, and I am quoting, we have a picture, we know your situation, so you already know where we are consolidated. Why are you asking me, Chief, sir, do you have a picture or not? Bo, this is not the moment. Because you cannot have both, sir, Danner said, and his voice never went up, not once. And later the lawyers would play the recording and remark on that. You cannot have a picture and also need a grid. One of those is a lie. And sir, whichever one it is, I am the guy sitting in the dirt with the phone, so I would really like to know which. The line was silent for 4 seconds. Then Hargrove said in a completely different voice, a voice that had nothing in it at all, put Bennett on. Danner said, "She is not on this radio, sir." "Then get her on it." "Sir, why do you want her?" "Chief Danner, I am giving you a lawful order." "Sir, I have got 11 Americans in a hole and a kid at 38 breaths a minute, and your first question was, where is Ethan? And your second question was, where are we consolidated? And your third question is, where is the sniper in, sir? I have been doing this since you were a major, and not one of those three questions was, where is my casualty? Nothing. Sir, you did not ask about Reyes. Nothing. You have not asked about a single wounded man on this team, Danner said. You have asked me for 3 locations. The line clicked and went dead. Danner sat there in the open with the handset in his hand. Then he keyed the team net and said very quietly, "Ethan." I heard all of it. He hung up. I heard, "Sir, he did not ask about Marco." "Bo, get back here." He did not ask about Marco, Ethan. Chief Walker said, and his voice broke for the first time all night, one small crack right down the middle of it. "Get back here." At 0439, Claire Bennett came back on the net, and she was out of breath, and when she spoke, there was something underneath her voice that had not been there before. Viper actual ghost. "Bennett, where have you been?" Displacing, sir, 3rd position. "Sir, I have got a problem, and I am going to say it fast." Send. They found my 2nd position. Walker's stomach went to ice. How? That is the problem, sir. They did not walk it. They did not sweep it. They did not search. 11 men came directly up the west approach in a file to a ledge that took me 5 hours to find, and they went straight to the attack rock I fired from, and they did not slow down once. Bennett. Sir, somebody told them where I was. Nobody knows where you are. Sir, one person does. Who? Sir, at 0406. I told you my position on your team net, Claire said. West wall upper ledge 210 meters above your floor. I said it out loud. You told me to say it twice. Walker felt the ground go out from under him. Bennett, that is a closed net. Yes, sir. That is a 12-man net. That is encrypted. That net does not leave this valley. Sir, Claire said. At 0424, a colonel who was 9 miles away came up on it. Nobody made a sound. Sir, whatever you thought your team net was tonight, it is not that. At 0441, Walker did something he had never done in 11 years. He took his team off comms. Viper, this is actual. Radio silence, right now, everybody off. If it has a battery, kill it. Sir, kill it, Ochoa. Sir, if we go dark, we cannot. We are already dark. We have been dark all night and we did not know it. The only difference now is they were listening and we were not. They killed the radios. And in the sudden dead silence of that hillside with 140 men in the rocks around them, and a 24-year-old bleeding out and no way to talk to a single soul in the world, Ethan Walker crouched down in the middle of 10 men and did the last thing left that a commander can do, which is tell the truth to their faces. I am going to say this once. They leaned in. There is a man on this task force who put us in this valley on a route he chose at a timeline. He spoke out loud against the objection of the only person who read the terrain, and then sat 9 miles away and listened to us die on a frequency he should not have been able to hear. Ochoa said, Sir, let me finish. Sir, you are talking about a colonel. I am talking about a as Walker said. That is the whole trick, Ochoa. That is how it works. Once you put a rank on a man, everybody stops looking at the man. Bennett looked at the man. 14 hours ago in a tent in front of 40 of us, one Marine looked at the man and asked him a question, and we all laughed, and now Marco Reyes is at 38 breaths a minute. Nobody laughed now. So here is what we are going to do, Walker said. We are going to go get Grant Mercer. Ochoa's head came up. Sir, Bennett says Mercer is... I know what Bennett says. Sir, if she is right, he is not a hostage. He is a... I know what he is, Walker said. That is why we are going to go get him. Because if he is a hostage, we save him. And if he is not, then he is the only man in this valley who can tell me who bought us. And I am not leaving this place without one of those two things. Kestner said quietly, Sir, that is 140 men between us and that road. Yes, With 11 of us, 2 of us cannot walk. Yes. And about 6 magazines total. Yes. Sir, that is not a plan. That is a funeral with steps. And Walker smiled. It was not a nice smile. Kestner, he said, how many rounds does it take to move 140 men? Sir, how many? Give me a number. I do not know, sir. Thousands. Wrong, Walker said. It took her 6. Nobody spoke. 6 rounds, Walker said. At 0404, 6 rounds from one rifle turned a 100-man assault into 100 men lying down. They are not brave, Kestner. They are not disciplined. And paid men do exactly one thing when they cannot find the shooter. They stop. Sir, she has 18 rounds. Then we are going to make 18 rounds sound like a battalion, Walker said. Chief, here, can you get to her? Danner did not answer for a second. Bo, can you get to that ledge? Sir, that ledge took her 5 hours. Not the ledge, her, line of sight. Can you get somewhere she can see you? Ethan, we are dark. We have no radios. She does not know we are coming, and she cannot ask. Bo. Yes, Danner said. I can get to the base of the west wall. If she is where she says she is, she will see me. Then go. Ethan, if I stand up at the base of that wall, 140 men see me too. I know, Walker said. That is the point. At 4:47, Chief Bo Danner walked out into the open at the base of the western wall of that valley, on his feet upright alone, with his rifle held over his head in both hands. Ochoa said out loud to nobody, he is going to die. He did not die. He stood there for 4 seconds, and the whole valley saw him, and the whole valley started to move. And then Bo Danner did the only thing he could think of, the only signal he had, the only sentence he could speak with his body across 200 meters of black rock to a woman he had never once defended in his life. He put his rifle down, he got on one knee, and he pointed east with his whole arm and held it. For a very long 2 seconds, nothing happened. Then a rifle cracked on the rock above him, and a man on the eastern slope, 190 meters from Bo Danner, who had been lining up on the back of his head, dropped. Danner did not flinch. He held the arm. The rifle cracked again, and again, and again. 4 rounds in 11 seconds, and every one of them hit something on the eastern approach, and the entire eastern element of Faisal Nazari's force went from standing to prone in the space of a breath. And Bo Danner, on one knee in the open with no rifle in his hand, started to laugh. She got it, he said. Ethan, she got it, she got it, she read me. Bo, get down. She read my arm, Ethan, from 200 meters, in the dark. She has never worked with me. She has never talked to me. She has never even shaken my hand, and she read my, Chief, get down. Danner got down, 14 rounds. At 0450, the SEAL team moved east under the guns of a woman who could not talk to them, and it worked, and the reason it worked was the thing that none of them ever fully got over. She was ahead of them. Every time. They would decide to move, and by the time they moved, she had already shot the man who was about to see them move. They would break for a boulder line, and there would already be nobody at the boulder line. Ochoa said afterward that it stopped feeling like cover and started feeling like something religious, and Ochoa was not a religious man. Twice Walker looked up at the black rock and had the unmistakable feeling of being read. At 0453, they were 80 meters from the road, and Walker got his first look at Grant Mercer with his own eyes. He was sitting behind the second vehicle. He was not tied. There was nobody within 9 meters of him. And Walker felt something in his chest that he had spent his entire adult life not feeling, and he had to put his hand flat on the ground for a second to keep from doing something stupid. Kestner whispered, Sir, his hands. I see them. Sir, his hands are not. I see it, Kestner. There is nothing on his wrists. There is not even a mark. 12 rounds. At 0455, Faisal Nazari came back on the open frequency, and Ochoa's radio was the only one still up. And he had kept it up against orders because he could not stand not knowing. And later Walker forgave him for it, because if he had not, none of them would have heard it. Nazari's voice was fast now, fast and thin. Commander Walker, Commander, answer me. Nobody answered. Commander, I know you are alive. I know you are moving east. Answer me. Nobody answered. Commander. And then Faisal Nazari, warlord, master of that valley, owner of 200 fighters, said the thing that changed everything. Commander, I want to make a new arrangement. Ochoa mouthed the word new. Commander, I did not know about the woman. Walker's head came up. Nobody told me about the woman, Nazari said, and there was something in his voice now that was almost funny, almost if you were the kind of person who could laugh at anything. I was told there would be 12 men and no aircraft and no support. I was told this. I paid for this information. I paid a great deal for this information, and it was wrong. Ochoa was staring at Walker. Sir, he whispered. Sir, he is complaining. I hear it. Sir, he is complaining to us about the quality of his intel. Commander Nazari said, I have lost 60 men tonight. 60. To one rifle. Do you understand what that costs me? Do you understand what I have to say to their families? I was told 12 men in a bowl. I was not told about a ghost on my mountain. And then Nazari said it. Your colonel lied to me. The entire hillside stopped. Ochoa put both hands on the radio like he could hold the words in it. Sir, he whispered, and his voice was gone. Sir, I heard him. Sir, he said your colonel. Ochoa, I heard him. Commander Nazari went on, and he was almost pleading now, and it was obscene. I am a businessman. I was sold a transaction. The transaction was 12 tired Americans, and a dead radio and no shooter. That is what I bought, and I have been given something else. So I would like to renegotiate. Walker took the radio out of Ochoa's hands. Nazari. Commander? Good. Say his name? Say his name. Commander, I do not know his name. You are lying. No, Commander, I am not. That is the point of a man like that. Nazari laughed and it was thin. He does not give you a name. He gives you a voice on a telephone and a number in a bank in Dubai and a route on a map. He is not a man. He is a service. Then tell me what he sounds like. He sounds, Nazari said, like a man who has done this before. 9 rounds. At 4:58, Walker did the thing he had been building toward all night, and he did it with a shaking hand. He keyed the open frequency, and he set it so that the whole valley could hear it, and so that 140 paid fighters could hear it, and so that one man behind a vehicle 80 meters away, sitting in the dirt with a phone in his jacket, could hear it in his own language. Grant Mercer. Ochoa's mouth fell open. Grant Mercer, this is Ethan Walker. I know you can hear me. I know you have a radio. I know you have a phone. Nothing. Grant, I have known you 6 years. You showed Petty Officer Ochoa a picture of your daughter in Bagram. Her name is Rennie. She is 9. Nothing. Grant, I have a 24-year-old on this hillside at 38 breaths a minute, and he is going to be dead in 20 minutes, and you are sitting 80 meters from me on a road with nobody guarding you, and I am going to ask you one question, and I want you to know that whatever you say, I am coming to that road. Nothing. Grant, who chose the route? The silence went on for 11 seconds. And then on the open frequency in a valley in northern Afghanistan, at 4:59 in the morning, an American intelligence officer keyed a microphone and said in a voice that was perfectly calm and perfectly clear and not heard at all, Ethan, put the rifles down and I will get your kid on a helicopter in 9 minutes. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Kestner said, oh my God. Oh my. Ethan, Mercer said. Ethan, listen to me. I can do it. Right now. One call, 9 minutes, and that kid is on a bird with 2 corpsmen and a surgeon, and every one of you walks out of this valley, and I am not lying to you, and you know I am not lying to you because I have never once lied to you in 6 years. Grant. Ethan, please put them down. Grant, you are not hurt. Silence. Grant, she watched you walk 11 meters on a leg that has been bleeding for 2 hours and you did not limp. Silence. Grant, say something. And Grant Mercer said very quietly, and everyone in that valley heard it, who watched me? Walker closed his eyes. There it was. Out of every question a hostage could ask, out of every single thing a beaten man on his knees for 2 hours might have said, that was the one. Not, how do you know? Not, what are you talking about? Not, Ethan, I am hurt. Come get me. Who watched me? Grant. Walker said, you just asked me for a location. Nothing. You just did what he did, Walker said. Grant, you just asked me the exact same question your colonel asked my chief, and you asked it in the exact same order, and I want you to know that I noticed. The frequency stayed open. They could hear him breathing. Ethan, Mercer said. Ethan, you do not understand what this is. Then explain it. You do not have the clearance. And Ochoa, 26 years old, 4,000 rounds of experience, half a magazine left, said the thing they all wanted to say and could not. You do not have the clearance, he repeated. Sir, that is what Nazari said, word for word. At 0401, he said you do not have the rank. Walker stood all the way up. He stood up in the open, 80 meters from the road in front of 140 men, and nobody shot at him, and that was the final proof, and everybody there understood it at the same moment. Nobody shot at him because nobody had been told to shoot at him. Grant, he said, how much? Ethan, how much were we worth? 12 of us. What was the number? It was not about, what was the number, Grant? And Grant Mercer said in a small, tired voice that Ethan Walker would hear for the rest of his life, you were not the product, Ethan. 6 rounds. Say that again. You were not the product, Mercer said. You were the receipt. At 0502, Faisal Nazari's men began to withdraw. Not attack, withdraw. They came off the slopes and started for their vehicles in a fast, ugly, undisciplined mass, and Walker watched 140 armed men decide all at once that they no longer wanted any part of that valley, and he could not understand it, and then Ochoa's radio crackled one last time. Commander? Nazari, and he was not businesslike anymore. He was afraid. Commander aircraft. Walker said, what? Aircraft commander. From the west, 2. Nazari, our aircraft are grounded. Commander Nazari said they are not yours. And then from 210 meters up on a rock she had climbed at midnight alone against a direct order with 6 rounds left in a rifle she had cleaned with a shirt sleeve. Claire Bennett came up on the one frequency she had left, the open frequency, the one the whole valley could hear, the one her career could never survive, and said 11 words that Ethan Walker never repeated to anyone without his voice breaking. Viper actual ghost, do not get on those helicopters. Ochoa said, what did she just say? Nobody answered him. Sir, what did she just say? You heard her. Sir, those are helicopters. I know. Sir, that is the sound of a bird. That is the sound we have been praying to hear for an hour and 15 minutes. That is Marco getting on a bird, sir. That is Ochoa. That is the sound of him living, sir. Walker did not look at him. He was looking west at a black rock 210 meters up at nothing, at a woman he had never met in person and had spoken to for 56 minutes and had trusted with every life he had. Ghost Viper actual, he said. Send it, sir. Sergeant, you are on the open frequency. I know, sir. The whole valley can hear you. I know, sir. I do not have a team net anymore. Neither do you. That is the point. Bennett, say it again. Say exactly what you said. Do not get on those helicopters. At 0503, the sound got bigger, and it came in from the west, and every man on that hillside felt his body do something involuntary and shameful, which was hope. They could not help it. That is what nobody tells you. 11 men who had spent 75 minutes doing arithmetic on their own. Deaths heard rotors, and their hands started shaking. And Kestner, who had a hole through his thigh and had not made one sound about it, put his forehead against a rock and said, thank God, out loud before he could stop himself. And a Marine sergeant on a ledge told them no. Bennett, Walker said, give me a reason, right now, fast. Sir, they are coming from the west. So, Sir, task force is east. Bagram is east. Every American aircraft that has ever flown into this valley in the last 9 days came from the east. Those 2 came around the north shoulder, and they are running the western wall low, and they did not check in on any frequency I have. They could be diverted. Yes, sir. They could be coalition. Yes, sir. They could be anything. Yes, sir, they could be, Claire said. And sir, at 0459, an American intelligence officer told you he could put your casualty on a helicopter in 9 minutes. It is now 4 minutes later, and there are 2 helicopters. Walker's whole body went cold. Ochoa said, oh. Sir, Claire said he was not guessing. He said 9 minutes because he knew the flight time. He knew the flight time because he knew where they were. Sir, those aircraft have been holding somewhere for over an hour waiting on a phone call, and the phone call came from a man sitting behind a vehicle on a road 80 meters from you who is not tied up and does not limp. Nobody spoke. Sir, they are his. At 0504, Grant Mercer came back on the open frequency, and he was not calm anymore. Ethan, Ethan, listen to me. Do not listen to her. Ochoa's head snapped around. Ethan, that is a sergeant. That is an E5. She has been on a rock in the cold for 5 hours and she is hypoxic and she is exhausted and she is seeing things that are not there. Grant. Ethan, your man is dying. Grant. He is dying right now, Ethan, while she talks. Do you understand what 38 breaths a minute means? You know what it means. You have seen it. He has got minutes, not an hour, minutes. Grant, how do you know he is at 38? The frequency went silent. Ochoa made a sound like he had been hit. Grant Walker said, nobody said that number on any radio that you should be able to hear. Chief Danner said it at 0434 on a closed team net that we shut down at 0441. So I am going to ask you on an open frequency in front of your friend Faisal Nazari and about 140 of his employees, how do you know my man is at 38? Nothing. Grant, how do you know his respiration rate? And Grant Mercer said in a voice that had gone completely flat, because I have been listening to you die all night, Ethan. All of it, every word, since 0316. Kestner put his face in his hands. You were on our net. I have been on your net since before you took off. For 9 days. Ethan, you have been in that valley 9 days, Grant. 9 days. They took you 9 days ago. We flew all day. We landed tired. We came in at night on a route we did not pick. Grant, you have been sitting in this valley for 9 days waiting for us. Ethan, put the rifles down and I will save your kid. Walker keyed it and his voice did not rise 1 degree. No. Ethan, Grant, no. At 0505, Marco Reyes stopped breathing. It happened during that sentence. Hollis screamed and it was not a word, and Danner was on him in 3 seconds and had the kid's jaw in his hands and his mouth over his mouth and his whole life in his 2 arms. Everyone heard it. Grant Mercer heard it too because the frequency was open, and later in a room in Virginia when the lawyers played that recording, they played the 11 seconds where Dale Hollis screamed and Bo Danner counted out loud, and there was not one lawyer in that room who could look at the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come on, Marco. 6, 7, 8. Chief, do not talk to me, Dale. Chief, he is not. 9, 10, Marco Reyes, you look at me. Chief, please. 11, 12. You dropped your rifle, kids, so what? So did every man who ever got shot. Get up, get up, get up. At 13, Marco Reyes coughed. Hollis started sobbing. Just openly the way men do when there is no room left for anything else, and he kept saying, okay, 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 like the word could hold the kid together. And Bo Danner sat back on his heels and looked west up at a black rock and said something that nobody on that hillside ever forgot. Ethan. Bo. Ethan, she has been right about every single thing tonight. I know. Every single thing. 9 for 9, 10 for 10. The route, the southeast, the antenna, the net, Hargrove, Mercer, all of it. She has not been wrong one time, and every one of us bet against her at least once. Bo. So I am going to say this in front of everybody, Danner said, and I want it on Ochoa's radio, and I want it on that open frequency, and I want Grant Mercer to hear it. We are not getting on those helicopters. And if I die here in the next 10 minutes, that is fine, because 14 hours ago I stood in the back of a tent and watched a colonel humiliate her, and I did not open my mouth, and I would rather die in this valley than survive it by ignoring her twice. At 0506, the 2 aircraft came around the north shoulder, and Kestner, who had spent 6 years around aviation, got one look at them and said the sentence that ended the argument forever. Sir, those are not military laws. Say again. No lights, no IFF. Sir, that is a civilian airframe. Those are contractor birds. Kestner, are you sure? Sir, I am looking at them. Are you sure? Sir, I know what a Black Hawk sounds like, and that is not a Black Hawk, and if it is somebody painted it and pulled the lights out. Walker keyed the open frequency. Grant. Nothing. Grant, who is on those aircraft. Nothing. Grant, I am looking at 2 unmarked helicopters that do not have lights on them, running the western wall low with no IFF and no check-in and no comms, and I am going to ask one time, who is on them? And Grant Mercer said very quietly, Ethan, get your men in the open, and this is over in 4 minutes. And that was when Ethan Walker understood. It went through him like a nail. Bo, he said, and his voice was wrong. Bo, yeah, they are not here for us. Ethan, Bo, they are here for her. The whole hillside went still. Sir, think about it, Walker said, and he was talking fast now, and there was something in his voice that was almost laughing and was not laughing at all. Nazari says he lost 60 men. 60. Nazari says he is renegotiating. Nazari says he was sold a transaction and got something else. Bo, this whole thing was supposed to be finished at 400. 12 dead Americans in a bowl, a hostage that never was a rescue that got ambushed on a bad road, and a colonel 9 miles away with a printed timeline that says 22 minutes and clean hands. Ethan, and it did not work, Walker said. It did not work, Bo. And the only reason it did not work is a Marine sergeant nobody invited climbed a rock at midnight. So now there is a problem. Now there is a survivor. Now there is a witness who has been calling every single move out loud on an open frequency for the last hour with 140 enemy fighters listening. Boshi has been building the case out loud the entire night. Ochoa whispered, "Oh my God." "He is not coming to save us," Walker said. "He is coming to close the file." At 5:07, Claire Bennett came on the net, and she was breathing hard, and she said the thing that made Bo Danner put his hand over his eyes. "Viper actual ghost. Sir, I need you to stop talking about me and start moving your team." Bennett. "Sir, west wall, now, all of you. Base of the wall under the overhang, tight against the rock." Bennett, that is toward the aircraft. "Yes, sir." "That is straight at them." "Yes, sir, and it is the one place on this entire floor they cannot shoot into from a helicopter, because I have been sitting above it for 5 hours, and I know exactly what they can see and exactly what they cannot." Bennett. "Sir, please. I do not have time to sell it to you. Not this time. Move." Walker did not think about it for even a second. "Viper, west wall, move." "Sir." "Move Ochoa, right now. Hollis Reyes on the litter Kestner on Danner. Go, go." They went. And at 0508, running across open ground with a dying kid on a poncho and 200 meters of black rock in front of them, 11 Americans made the exact opposite decision of every instinct in their bodies, and they made it on the word of one Marine sergeant, and that decision is the entire reason there are 11 headstones that do not exist. At 0509, the first aircraft came over their old position and put down a wall of fire on it that lasted 11 seconds. 11 seconds. On the spot where they had been standing, Kestner threw up. Nobody said anything because nobody could. They lay under an overhang at the base of the western wall and listened to a helicopter destroy a piece of ground they had been standing on 90 seconds earlier, and every man there did the same arithmetic and got the same answer. Ochoa said it. His voice was a whisper. "They just tried to kill us." "Yes." Sir, that was an American aircraft and it just tried to kill us." "Yes." "Sir, what is happening?" "Ochoa, I do not know." "Sir." "I do not know," Walker said. "I want to lie to you and I am not going to. I do not know what this is. I know it is not a mistake. I know it is not fog. I know it is not fratricide. I know that in 11 seconds, a helicopter that came from the west put 400 rounds on the exact grid where 12 Americans were consolidated, and I know that the only reason it was empty is because a Marine told us to run at the thing that was trying to kill us." At 5:10, Faisal Nazari came on the open frequency, and he was screaming, not talking, screaming. And his men were screaming behind him, and there was gunfire that had nothing to do with the Americans at all. "He is shooting at me." Walker sat straight up. "Nazari, Commander, he is shooting at me." "Nazari, say again." "The helicopter is shooting at my men." And Ochoa started laughing. He could not help it. He put his hand over his own mouth and laughed, and there were tears coming out of his eyes, and it was not funny. It was the least funny thing that ever happened in that man's life, and he could not stop. "Sir," he choked. Sir, they are killing him too." "I hear it." "Sir, they are killing the guy they paid." Ochoa. "Sir, do you understand what that means? They are killing everybody. Everybody who was in this valley tonight. Us, him, all of it. Sir, they are not closing a file. They are burning the building." "Commander," Nazari's voice was tearing. Commander, I have 110 men. I have vehicles. I am leaving. Commander, listen to me. Nazari. I'm telling you this because I want you to live, Nazari said. And it was the truest sentence he ever spoke, and he only spoke it because he was terrified. Commander, your colonel is on that aircraft. Walker's blood stopped. Say again. He is on the aircraft, the first one. I do not know his name. I have never known his name, but he called me 11 minutes ago from a helicopter, and he told me the arrangement was concluded and I should withdraw, and I said the woman is still shooting, and he said, do not worry about the woman. Nazari. He said, do not worry about the woman, Commander. And then he shot my men. The frequency went dead. At 0511, Claire Bennett said on the open net, in the calmest voice anyone had used all night, Viper actual ghost. Sir, I have 6 rounds and 2 helicopters, and I need to tell you something. Bennett. Sir, I cannot shoot down a helicopter with a rifle. I know. Nobody can, sir. That is not a thing. I want to be honest with you because I have been honest with you all night, and I am not going to stop now at the end. Bennett, listen to me. Sir, they are going to find me. Not tonight, in about 6 minutes. They know approximately where I am because they have been listening to me talk on an open frequency for an hour. And the only reason I have talked on an open frequency for an hour is that it was the only way to move your team, and I would do it again, so I do not want anybody feeling anything about it. Bennett. Sir, when they find me, they are going to make it look like the enemy did it. Bo Danner said out loud to nobody, no. So I am going to say some things now on this frequency at this volume because 140 men and 2 aircraft and 1 warlord and 1 intelligence officer and 1 colonel are all listening, and because after tonight, nobody is ever going to let me say them in a room. Sergeant Bennett. My name is Claire Bennett, she said. Sergeant, United States Marine Corps, scout sniper. At approximately 1400 local yesterday in the task force briefing tent, I asked Colonel Dale Hargrove who chose the route into this valley, and he did not answer me. He told me I was a support soldier. 41 people watched him do it. I told him the valley was a bowl. I told him the high ground was continuous. I told him if anything went wrong, everything would go wrong at once. And that is exactly what happened, and I take no satisfaction in that at all. Bennett, get off the net. At 0011, I began climbing the western wall against a direct order, she said. It took me 3 hours and 5 minutes. I brought 60 rounds. I have used 54. I did not tell anyone I was going because I knew what would happen if I told anyone I was going. At 0344, I heard an enemy commander use a timeline figure that was never printed and was spoken out loud exactly 1 time by Colonel Hargrove in that tent in front of me. Sergeant. At 0424, Colonel Hargrove appeared on a closed 12-man team net that he should not have been able to access, and his first 3 questions were the location of Commander Walker, the location of the consolidated team, and my location, and he did not ask about the casualty. Bennett. At 0436, Chief Bo Danner answered a satellite radio whose antenna had been repaired by someone in this valley after being destroyed at 0353 in a location no enemy could see. Sergeant Bennett stopped. At 0453, I observed American intelligence officer Grant Mercer stand up unassisted cross 11 meters of open road on a leg that had reportedly been bleeding for 2 hours, sit down behind a vehicle and place a telephone call. 9 minutes later, 2 unmarked aircraft entered this valley from the west and fired on the consolidated position of an American SEAL team. The whole valley was silent. Even the shooting had stopped. That was the thing Ochoa never got over. For about 9 seconds in a valley with 200 armed men in it, nobody fired a shot because every human being in that place was listening to a Marine sergeant read out a case. I am aware that I have no proof of any of this, Claire said. I am aware that I am an E5 and that everyone I have named outranks me by a great deal. I am aware of exactly how this is going to go, but it is on tape now on an open frequency, and there are 140 men in this valley with radios, and at least one of them is going to sell that tape to somebody, and I find that I am okay with that. Bennett, ghost out. Bennett, nothing. Walker turned around and grabbed Danner by the vest with both hands. Bo, Ethan, Bo, get her off that rock. Ethan, it is a 5-hour climb. I did not ask you how long it takes. I asked you to get her off that rock. And Bo Danner said, Sir, I cannot. And that was the worst moment of Ethan Walker's life. Not the ambush, not the arithmetic, not the 11 seconds of fire on his old grid. It was standing under an overhang at the base of a wall he could not climb, listening to the only person who had told him the truth all night sign off and having absolutely nothing left to give her. At 0513, Walker keyed the open frequency and did the last thing he had. Grant Mercer. Nothing. Grant. Nothing. Grant, I know you are still on the road. I know you have not moved, and I know why. Silence. You cannot get on those birds either, can you? Nothing. Grant Walker said, and his voice was very soft now. They did not tell you about the second helicopter. And on the open frequency in a valley in northern Afghanistan, an American intelligence officer said, "What?" And Ethan Walker knew he had him. Grant, how many aircraft did you call for? Nothing. Grant, oh, how many? One, Mercer said. Ochoa said, oh my God. One, Walker said, you called for one. You called for one because you had a job, and the job was 12 dead SEALs and a hostage story, and the bird was your ride home. And there are two, Grant, there are two, and they are shooting at Nazari, who was paid, and they put 400 rounds on my grid, and Nazari says the colonel is on the first one. Silence. Grant, who was on the second one? The frequency stayed open for a long time. Then Grant Mercer said in a voice that had nothing left in it at all, Ethan. Grant? Ethan, I need to come to you. Kestner said, absolutely not. Ethan, please. Grant, 4 minutes ago, you told me to walk my men into the open. Ethan, I did not know. I swear to God, I did not know about the second. You did not know they were going to do to you exactly what you did to us. Silence. Grant, I want you to hear this, and I want you to think about it for the rest of whatever you have got left, Walker said. You spent 9 days in this valley setting a trap for 12 men who would have died to get you out. 9 days. And the only reason you are still alive right now is that a Marine sergeant you never met who was not invited, who was ordered to stay 9 miles away, climbed a rock at midnight because she thought somebody in this valley might need help. Ethan. She is the reason you are breathing, Grant. Sit with that. At 0515, the first aircraft came back around, and this time it came slow, and this time it was not hunting the floor. It was hunting the wall. Ochoa said, sir, it is going up. It is going up the wall. I see it. Sir, it is looking for her. I see it. Sir, we have to do something. Ochoa. Sir, we have to do something. And Ethan Walker looked at his team at 10 men with 6 magazines and 2 casualties, and no aircraft and no comms and no chain of command they could trust, and he made the decision that ended his career and made his name. Ochoa, Kestner, Hollis, on me. Sir, we are going to shoot at that helicopter. Kestner said, sir, that is an American aircraft. Is it? Nobody answered. Kestner, I asked you a question. Is it? Because I have been looking at it for 6 minutes and it does not have lights, and it does not have IFF, and it does not have a tail number, and it is not on any American frequency, and 11 seconds after it arrived, it fired on my team. So you tell me, petty officer, what is it? Kestner looked at him. Sir, he said, it is a target. Say it again. It is a target, sir. Everybody hear that? 10 voices at the same time. Yes, sir. Then get me every round we have got left. Right now, every magazine, every man. Chief, you too. Danner said, Ethan's small arms do not. I know they do not, Bo. Then what are we doing? We are giving her a target that is not her, Walker said. And Bo Danner stared at his commander for 1 full second and then started laughing. And he was crying at the same time, and he said, you beautiful son of a... At 051611, Americans at the base of a cliff opened fire on a helicopter. They did not hit anything important. They were never going to. That is not what it was. What it was noise and light and 11 muzzle flashes at the bottom of a wall, and a pilot in an unmarked aircraft who had come there for one woman on a ledge, suddenly having to answer a question about the 11 men shooting at his belly from 100 meters. The aircraft turned. It came off the wall, and it came down, and it came at them, and Ochoa screamed something that was not words, and every man there kept firing anyway. And for 4 seconds, Ethan Walker stood at the base of that cliff in the open and watched a helicopter drop its nose at him and thought with total clarity, this is fine. This is what I would have picked. And then from 210 meters up, from a woman with 6 rounds, who had been told her entire career that she belonged in a support role, one rifle fired. She did not shoot the airframe. She was not stupid, and she had been reading that aircraft for 8 minutes, and she had been reading aircraft since she was 19 years old, and she knew exactly one thing that a 300-grain round can do to a helicopter at 200 meters when you are above it. She shot into the rotor mast, twice. Kessner, who knew aviation, screamed, "She hit the head, she hit the head!" And the aircraft came apart in the air. Not explosively, not like a movie. It just stopped being an aircraft. It yawed hard right, and something in the top of it made a sound that no man there had ever heard before or wanted to hear again. And it went into the eastern slope at about 110 miles an hour, and there was a light, and then there was not. Nobody cheered. That is the thing. Nobody cheered. 11 men stood at the base of a cliff and watched an aircraft go into a hill, and not one of them made a sound, because whatever was on that aircraft, it had an American on it, and every man there knew it. Ochoa sat down in the dirt. "Sir." "Yeah." "Sir, did we just—" "Yes." "Sir, what did we just do?" And Walker said, "We just told the truth, Ochoa." Loud. 4 rounds. At 05:18, the second aircraft broke off. It did not fire. It did not come around. It turned north and it went out over the shoulder, and it was gone in 90 seconds, and it never came back. And to this day, nobody has ever officially said what was on it. At 05:19, Faisal Nazari's vehicles left the valley in a column with their lights on, and not one of them fired a single round on the way out. And the last thing Ethan Walker ever heard from him came over the open frequency, and it was 2 words. "Good night, Commander." And then nothing. At 05:21, Grant Mercer walked up the middle of the road with his hands on his head. He did it alone. He did it slowly. He did it under the guns of 10 men who wanted to kill him, and 1 woman 400 meters away who could have ended him in a heartbeat and did not. Ochoa's rifle came up. "Ochoa." "Sir." "Ochoa." "No." "Sir, Petty Officer Ochoa put it down." Ochoa's hands were shaking so badly he could not hold the sight picture anyway. He put it down, and then he sat, and he put both hands over his face. Mercer stopped at 10 meters. "Ethan." Nobody spoke. "Ethan, say something. Get on your knees." "Ethan, Grant, get on your knees. You have had a lot of practice tonight." Mercer got on his knees. Walker walked over and looked down at him, and every man on that hillside watched. And later they all agreed that the strangest thing about that moment was how quiet Ethan Walker's voice was. "Who is on the second helicopter?" "Ethan, I want a lawyer." "You are in a valley in northern Afghanistan." "I want a lawyer." "Grant." "Ethan, I am not going to say anything, because if I say anything, they will find my daughter. And you know that is true. And you know exactly the kind of people I am talking about, because you just watched one of them shoot 100 paid fighters to close a gap." And Ethan Walker crouched down in front of him and said the only thing he could think of. "Then tell me one thing, and I will not ask you for anything else, ever." What? "Was any of it real?" Grant Mercer looked at him. "Grant, 9 days ago, when they took you, was that real?" And Grant Mercer said no. Hollis made a sound. "No," Mercer said again. "Ethan, I walked into this valley on the 4th, and I sat down, and I had tea, and I made a phone call, and I said, 'Take my picture.'" "Why?" "Because somebody needed 12 dead SEALs in a bad route in a grieving country," Mercer said. "Because there is a thing that happened, and there is a paper trail, and there was a man on this task force who needed the paper trail to be about a heroic failed rescue instead of about what it is actually about. Ethan, you were not the target. You were the story. You were the receipt." "Yes." "Say his name." "Ethan. Grant, say his name." And Grant Mercer said, "Hargrove was on the helicopter." At 05:24, from 400 meters away, on a frequency the whole world could hear, Claire Bennett said, "Viper, actual go. Send it, Sergeant." "Sir, there is a man walking out of the wreck site on the eastern slope." Every head turned. "Say again." "There is a man walking out of the wreck," Claire said. He is upright. He is favoring his left arm. He is about 600 meters from you, and he is moving north toward the road. Bennett, how many rounds do you have? 4, sir. Bennett, sir, do you want me to take him? And Ethan Walker stood in the middle of that road with 11 Americans and one traitor, and a dying kid, and a woman he had never met. 400 meters up on a rock she had been told she could not climb. And he understood that this was the entire night right here in one question. No, he said. Sir, Sergeant Bennett, do not shoot him. Sir, he is going to walk out of here. I know. Sir, if he gets north of that road, there is a village and vehicles, and he is gone, and nobody will ever... Bennett, listen to me. Walker's voice cracked. Sergeant, listen to me. You have been right about every single thing tonight, and I have been wrong about almost all of it, and I am asking you for one thing, and it is the only thing I will ever ask you for. Do not shoot him. Why, sir? Because if you shoot him, he is a casualty, Walker said. And if he walks, he is a defendant. Silence on the line. Sergeant Baumar, Walker said, I want him in a room. I want him in a room with a flag in the corner and a stenographer and your name on the witness list. I want 41 people from that tent to sit in that room and remember what they laughed at. Bennett, I do not want him dead. I want him explained. The frequency was quiet for a long time. Then Claire Bennett said, copy, sir, not firing. And she watched Colonel Dale Hargrove walk 600 meters north out of a burning helicopter through her scope with 4 rounds in her rifle and her father's voice in her head, and she let him go. At 5:33, a Black Hawk came in from the east with lights on, an IFF squawking, and a call sign that checked, and 2 corpsmen and a surgeon got out of it, and they took Marco Reyes off that hillside at 0536 with a pulse. He had one. It was fast, and it was thin, and it was a pulse. Hollis rode with him and did not let go of his hand for the entire flight. And when the surgeon told him he had to move, Hollis said no, and the surgeon looked at his face and let him stay. At 0541, Ethan Walker stood at the base of the western wall and looked up at 210 meters of black rock. Ghost. Send it, sir. Sergeant, we are exfiltrating. Copy. Come down. There was a pause. Sir, it is going to take me about 2 hours. Bennett, we have got a helicopter. Sir, there is nowhere on this ledge for a helicopter. Then we will wait. Sir, you have got a critical casualty. Marco is already gone, Sergeant. He is already on a bird. He has been on a bird for 5 minutes. There is nothing left in this valley to be in a hurry about. Silence. Sir, Bennett. Sir, you should go. And Ethan Walker, standing at the bottom of a wall he could not climb, said, Sergeant Bennett, 11 men are sitting down. Sir, they are sitting on Bennett. All of them. Chief Danner is sitting down. Ochoa is sitting down. Kestner has a hole in his leg, and he is sitting down. Nobody is getting on that helicopter until you are on the ground. And if that takes 2 hours, then it takes 2 hours. And if the sun comes up on us, then the sun comes up on us. There was a very long silence on that frequency. And then Claire Bennett said in a voice that was not steady for the first time in 5 hours and 50 minutes. Copy, sir. Starting down. It took her 2 hours and 11 minutes. And at 0752, when a 5'4" Marine sergeant with bleeding hands and an empty rifle came off the last 12 feet of that wall and turned around, she found 11 United States Navy SEALs standing in a line in the dirt waiting for her. Nobody said anything for a second. Then Chief Bo Danner stepped forward, and he could not get his voice to work at first, and he had to try twice. Sergeant Bennett, Chief, I was in the tent, he said, 14 hours ago. I was standing in the back, and I heard every word you said, and I knew you were right, and I did not open my mouth. Claire looked at him. I know, Chief, she said. I saw you. And Bo Danner, 19 years in with a silver star in a drawer at home, put his hand over his eyes in front of his entire team and cried. Nobody moved to help him. That was the thing Claire noticed. 10 SEALs stood there and let their chief cry, and not one of them looked away, and not one of them pretended it was not happening. And she understood something in that moment about the men she had spent 5 hours keeping alive. Chief, she said. Yeah. Chief, I need you to stop. I know. I mean it. I have been awake for 31 hours, and I have nothing left. And if you keep doing that, I'm going to do it too, and I would prefer not to. Danner laughed. It came out wet and broken. Copy, Sergeant. Ethan Walker stepped forward. He had thought about what he was going to say for 2 hours and 11 minutes while she came down that wall, and he had built it and torn it up and built it again about 9 times, and when he finally stood in front of her, every word of it was gone. "Sergeant Bennett." "Sir." He looked at her hands. They were shredded. The gloves were gone, somewhere on the wall, and the palms were raw down to the meat, and she was holding her rifle anyway, and she had not mentioned it once on the radio. "Your hands." "They are fine, sir." "They are not fine." "Sir, they are not important." And Walker heard himself say, "Why did you climb?" She looked at him for a second. "Sir, I have been standing at the bottom of this rock for 2 hours, and I have one question, and that is it. Why did you climb? You were 9 miles away. You were told no in front of 40 people. You had a rally point and a lawful order and a career, and you had every single reason on earth to be somewhere else, and you were on that ledge at midnight alone before we were even in the air. Why?" Claire was quiet. "Sergeant, sir, are you asking me as my commander?" I am not your commander. I have never been your commander. That is the whole problem." She almost smiled. "Sir," she said, "my father was a mountain rescue specialist. 19 years. He told me one true thing in his entire life, and he told it to me in a truck when I was 11 years old. What did he say? He said, 'You cannot rescue anybody from the parking lot.' Nobody said anything." "That is it," Claire said. "That is the whole answer, sir. There is not a better one. I heard the plan, and I knew what was going to happen, and I knew that if I was right, being right at the rally point would not save one single person. So I went early. Everything else is talk." Ochoa turned around and walked about 10 feet away and stood there with his back to everybody. And Ethan Walker, who had commanded men for 11 years, who had a chest full of ribbons and a career on a rail, took off his own gloves and held them out to a Marine sergeant. "Sir, I do not need. Sergeant Bennett, take the gloves." She took the gloves. They put her on the second bird at 0811, and the crew chief looked at her and then looked at 11 SEALs sitting in the dirt around her like a fence and did not ask a single question. Marco Reyes came out of surgery at 11:40 that same day. He lost most of a kidney and 11 inches of intestine and about half his blood, and the surgeon at Bagram told Bo Danner in the hallway with his mask still around his neck, "Chief, whoever kept counting on that hillside is the reason I had anything to work on." Danner said, "That was me." "Then good job." "No," Danner said. "No, it was not me. It was a Marine on a rock 200 meters up who told us to move west when everything in our bodies said go east. If we had gone east, he would have been in 11 pieces at 05, 09. I just counted." The surgeon looked at him. "Chief, are you all right?" "No," Danner said, "but thank you for asking. Nobody has asked me that yet today, and it has been a very long day." Colonel Dale Hargrove walked into a coalition forward operating base 31 hours later. He walked in. He came in on foot with a dislocated shoulder and burns on his left arm and no weapon and no radio and a perfectly clear story. And the first thing he did, the very first thing before medical, before anything, was ask for a secure line. He never got it. Because at 0524 that morning, 400 meters from a burning wreck, a Marine sergeant with 4 rounds had made a decision, and the decision was not to kill him, and the decision meant that 31 hours later, there was a lieutenant colonel from CYUD standing in the hallway when Dale Hargrove asked for a phone. "Sir, I need a secure line." "Sir, I need you to come with me." "Son, I need a secure line right now." "Sir," the lieutenant colonel said, "there is a recording." And Dale Hargrove stopped walking. That was the moment. There were 3 witnesses, and all 3 of them said the same thing at the hearing. He stopped walking, and he did not ask what recording, and he did not ask what they were talking about, and he did not say, "I do not understand." He said, "How much of it?" "All of it, sir." And Dale Hargrove said very quietly, "The whole night." "Sir, the frequency was open for 4 hours and 11 minutes. Grant Mercer talked for 6 days. He talked because Ethan Walker had said one sentence to him on a road at 0523 in the morning, and it was not a threat, and Mercer told the lawyers about it later and could not explain why it had worked. Walker had crouched down in front of him and said, "Grant, your daughter is going to read the transcript." That was all. Not "I will hurt you," not "you are going to prison." Just that. And Grant Mercer, who had walked into a valley on his own 2 legs and sat down and had tea and said, "Take my picture," put his forehead in the dirt of a road in northern Afghanistan, and started talking. And he did not really stop for 6 days. The thing that happened, the thing under all of it, the thing that needed a paper trail about a heroic failed rescue instead of what it actually was, turned out to be smaller and uglier than anyone wanted. It always is. 14 months of a program that had gone sideways. A line of money that had gone from a task force account to a network and back again. 411 weapons that had been signed for and had not existed. A warlord named Faisal Nazari who had been on both sides of a ledger for 2 years, and a colonel who had signed the ledger. An investigation had opened on the 11th of the month. Grant Mercer had walked into that valley on the 4th. So it was 7 days, Ochoa said in a hallway in Virginia, holding a paper cup of coffee he had not touched. 7 days. He knew the audit was coming, and he had 7 days. Yes. Sir, they killed 12 of us for 7 days. They tried to. Sir, Ochoa. Sir, that is not enough, Ochoa said, and his voice broke all the way apart. Sir, that is not enough. That is not enough for Marco. That is not enough for a kidney. Sir, there has to be more than that. There has to be something bigger than a spreadsheet. There has to be. There is not, Walker said. There never is. Petty officer in 11 years, I have never once found the big thing at the bottom. It is always paperwork. It is always somebody who did something small and stupid and then did something enormous to cover it. That is what evil actually is. It is not a man in a cave. It is a man with a signature and a deadline. Ochoa put the coffee down and put his hands on his knees and breathed. Sir, yeah. I want to say something and I do not want you to be mad. Go! Sir, if she had shot him, none of this would exist. Walker nodded. If she had shot him at 0524, he is a hero, sir. He is a colonel who died in a helicopter over Afghanistan. There is a wall with his name on it. There is a road named after him at some base in Georgia, and Grant Mercer never says one word because there is nobody left to testify against, and Marco loses a kidney for nothing, and everybody in that valley is just a sad story on the news. Yes. She had him, sir. 400 meters, 4 rounds. Yes. And she let him walk. Yes. Sir, how, Ochoa said. How does a person do that? After the night she had, after what he said to her on that net, he told her she was finished, sir. He told her he was going to take her father's name off her record. And she had him in a scope, and she let him walk 600 meters into a village. And Ethan Walker said, because I asked her to. Ochoa looked up. That is it, Walker said. That is the entire reason. I asked her. And she had been right about everything all night, and I had been wrong about almost everything, and I asked her for one thing and she did it. Ochoa, do you understand what that costs? She had 30 seconds to decide whether to trust a man who had never trusted her about the only man who had ever destroyed her, and she did it, and she did it on my word, and my word was not worth anything up to that point. Sir, that is what she is, Walker said. That is the whole thing. That is what nobody in that tent could see. The hearing convened on a Tuesday, room 411, flag in the corner, stenographer, 4 lawyers and a panel of 5 and 41 people from a briefing tent in northern Afghanistan on a witness list, and every single one of them showed up. Everyone. Claire Bennett sat in the second row in her dress blues with her hands in her lap and gauze still on both palms, and she did not look at Dale Hargrove one time. They played the recording on the 3rd day. It ran 4 hours and 11 minutes. The panel had asked for excerpts. The lead counsel, a Navy commander named Iris Vang, had said respectfully no. Ma'am, I would like to play all of it. Commander, that is 4 hours. Yes, ma'am. Is there a reason? Yes, ma'am, Vang said. Because the defense has characterized Sergeant Bennett as an emotional, exhausted, insubordinate junior enlisted Marine who panicked on a mountain. And I would like the panel to hear 4 hours of her voice. They played all of it. Our room 411 sat in absolute silence for 4 hours and 11 minutes and listened to a valley in northern Afghanistan, and at the 11-second mark where Dale Hollis screamed and Bo Danner counted out loud, a colonel on the panel took her glasses off and did not put them back on for a while. They heard Nazari say, your colonel lied to me. They heard Bo Danner say, you cannot have a picture and also need a grid. They heard Grant Mercer say, who watched me. They heard a helicopter fire on an American grid for 11 seconds. and they heard a Marine sergeant at 0511 with 6 rounds left and 2 aircraft hunting her say her own name into an open microphone and read out a case she knew she would never be allowed to make in a room. When it finished, nobody moved. Commander Vang stood up. Ma'am, the defense has told this panel that Sergeant Bennett could not have counted 42 men in the dark. Yes. There were 42, ma'am. The after-action ground count was 42. I would like that in the record. Noted. The defense has told this panel that Sergeant Bennett's claim about the 26-minute figure is a coincidence. Yes. Ma'am, we have 41 witnesses from that tent. We deposed all 41 separately. 38 of them independently recalled Colonel Hargrove saying the number 26 out loud. The printed timeline says 22. It has always said 22. Silence. Ma'am, the defense has told this panel that Sergeant Bennett disobeyed a lawful order. Yes. She did, ma'am, Vang said. She absolutely did. We conceded entirely. Sergeant Bennett was ordered to a rally point, and she went to a mountain instead. And if she had not, there are 11 Americans in this building who would be dead, and one of them is sitting behind me with one kidney. Marco Reyes was sitting behind her. He had insisted. He had come in a wheelchair and had made Hollis push him and had refused, absolutely refused to sit anywhere except directly behind Claire Bennett. And when Vang said one kidney, Reyes raised his hand about 6 inches and put it down. Ma'am, the government's position is simple, Vang said. Sergeant Bennett broke an order given by a man who was sitting at that table because he had sold her team. That is not insubordination. That is the system working in the only place it had left to work, which was inside one person. Dale Hargrove's counsel got up. He was good. He was very good. He had been doing this for 22 years, and he stood up and he asked one question, and it was the right question, and it was the question that made everything hang for about 9 seconds. Sergeant Bennett, sir, at 0011 on the morning in question, when you began climbing that wall, you did not know any of this. No, sir. You did not know about a ledger. You did not know about an audit. You did not know about Grant Mercer. No, sir. You had no evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever. No, sir. So at 0011, when you disobeyed a direct order from your task force commander, you were not exposing a conspiracy, were you, Sergeant? You were simply a junior Marine who disagreed with a plan. Yes, sir. You disagreed with a plan, and you decided your judgment was better than your colonel's. Yes, sir. Sergeant, do you understand that if every enlisted person in the United States military did what you did every time they disagreed with the plan, there would be no military at all? And Claire Bennett said, yes, sir, I do. Then how do you justify it? I do not, sir. The room stopped. Say that again, Sergeant. Sir, I do not justify it, Claire said. I am not going to stand here and tell this panel that what I did was correct as a general principle. It was not. If everybody did it, it would be a catastrophe. I know that. I knew it at midnight, and I knew it on the wall, and I know it now. Then why did you do it? Because I was not everybody, sir. I was the one person in that task force who had read that terrain and knew what it was, and I was the only one who was going to be able to do anything about it, and I had to decide in about 4 minutes whether I was going to be right at a rally point or useful on a rock. And you chose. Yes, sir. Knowing it would end your career. Sir, Claire said, I want to be very honest because I have been under oath for 2 days and I do not want to start now. I did not think about my career. Not once. Not at midnight, not on the wall, not at 0511 when I read that statement out loud, knowing exactly what it would do to me. I have thought about my career a great deal since, but not that night. That night I thought about 11 men in a bowl. 12, a voice said. Everyone turned. It was Marco Reyes. The panel president said, Petty Officer, you are not recognized. I know, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. He was crying and he did not care. It was 12. She said 11. It was 12. I am the 12th. The panel president looked at him for a moment. Petty Officer Reyes. Ma'am. Sit down. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, she said, for the correction. Hargrove's counsel tried one more thing. Sergeant Bennett, you fired on an American aircraft. Yes, sir. You destroyed an American aircraft with 2 rounds into the rotor head, killing 3 people aboard. Yes, sir. Sergeant, how did you know that aircraft was hostile? Sir, it had already fired on my team. You are certain. Sir, I watched it put 400 rounds on a grid where 11 Americans were standing 90 seconds earlier. I was directly above it. I was the only person in that valley with a downward angle on it. Sir, I saw everything. Sergeant, you had been awake for 31 hours. Yes, sir. You were at 210 meters of elevation in cold weather with no food since... Sir, let me finish, Sergeant. Sir, may I say one thing and then you can finish? The panel president said, say it. And Claire Bennett said, Sir, I had 6 rounds. I want the panel to understand what that means because I do not think anybody in this room has thought about it. I had 6 rounds and I fired 2, and both of them went into a rotor mast at 200 meters on a moving aircraft in the dark. Sir, that is not what a hypoxic, exhausted person who is seeing things does. That is what somebody does who has been doing arithmetic for 6 hours and had 4 rounds left over. Nobody breathed. Sir, she said, I was not confused. I have never been confused. That has been the entire problem with my career. Hargrove's counsel sat down. He did not ask another question. Dale Hargrove took the stand on the 9th day. He was calm. He had been a colonel for 6 years and a soldier for 26, and he sat there with his shoulder in a sling, and he was calm, and he answered 40 minutes of questions perfectly, and Iris Vang let him. She let him talk. She let him get comfortable. And then she asked him about the antenna. Colonel, at 0353, a satellite antenna belonging to Petty Officer Marco Reyes was struck and destroyed. That is what I understand, yes. At 0418, that same radio rang. Yes. Colonel, who repaired the antenna? I have no idea. Colonel, was Grant Mercer on that hillside? You would have to ask him. We did, Vang said. He says he was not. He says he never left that road. He says he was 80 meters away sitting behind a vehicle for 6 hours. Then I do not know. Colonel, there were exactly 2 categories of human being in that valley, Americans and Nizari's fighters. And Chief Danner has testified that a Nizari fighter would not have known how to align that antenna and would not have wanted to and would have taken it because it is worth $4,000. I have no idea. Colonel, somebody stood over a bleeding 24-year-old American in the dark and repaired his radio and walked away and did not touch him. I was 9 miles away, Commander. Yes, sir, Vang said. You were, I know. That is the only thing in this entire case that everybody agrees on. And then she said it. Colonel, at 0424, you came up on Viper's closed team net. Yes. Sir, how? Task Force relay. There was no relay, sir. It was destroyed at 0353. Then a backup. Sir, the backup was in Petty Officer P. Reyes's ruck 40 meters out in a kill zone, and it did not come up until 0436. Silence. Sir, you were on their net at 0424. 12 minutes before that radio was answered. Sir, how were you on a closed, encrypted 12-man net at 0424? Dale Hargrove said nothing. Colonel, nothing. Colonel, I have an answer. I have had it for 6 weeks. I am going to say it, and you can correct me if I am wrong. You were on a 3rd radio, sir. A radio that was in that valley. A radio that somebody carried in there 9 days before Commander Walker's team ever landed. Nothing. Sir, you were not 9 miles away listening to a relay, Vang said. You were plugged directly into a set that was sitting on a road in that valley in the jacket of an American intelligence officer who walked in on his own 2 feet on the 4th. That is how you heard Chief Danner say 38. That is how you knew Sergeant Bennett was on the west wall 4 minutes after she said it out loud. That is how you knew everything all night. Hargrove's counsel objected. The panel president overruled it. And Iris Vang said, Colonel Hargrove, do you want to tell this panel why your first 3 questions to a surrounded SEAL team were 3 locations and not 1 casualty? And Dale Hargrove said the only thing he had left. I want a lawyer. Sir, Vang said, he is sitting next to you. They found him guilty on 11 of 13 counts on a Thursday afternoon. Conspiracy, fraud, 2 counts of attempted murder of United States service members. The panel deliberated for 6 hours and 40 minutes, and when they read it out, Dale Hargrove did not react at all, and Marco Reyes in his wheelchair put both hands over his face and sobbed like a child, and Bo Danner put a hand on his shoulder and kept it there. Claire Bennett did not move. Ochoa said afterward that he watched her the whole time and she did not move a muscle, And when he asked her about it in the hallway, she said something he never forgot. Sergeant, he is going away forever. You are not happy. Petty officer, I have never once wanted him to go away. Then what did you want him? I wanted somebody in that tent to answer my question, Claire said. 14 months ago, I asked a man who chose the route, and he did not answer me. That is all I have ever wanted. And it took a court-martial and a helicopter and your friend's kidney to get an answer, and the answer was, he did, and I am not happy, Ochoa. I am just done. Grant Mercer got 22 years. He asked for one thing at sentencing, and the panel granted it, and it was that the transcript be sealed from public release for 9 years. His daughter was 9. He wanted her to be 18. Ethan Walker was in the room when they read it, and he did not feel one thing about it, and he told a Navy psychologist 11 months later that the emptiest moment of his entire life was discovering that he had no opinion at all about Grant Mercer. They tried to court Marshal Claire Bennett. They actually tried, That is the part that nobody at home ever believes when they hear the story, and it is true, and there is paper on it. A convening authority looked at the file and looked at a disobeyed order and started a process, and it took 11 days for that process to die. It died because 41 people from a tent wrote letters. All 41, including 4 who had laughed at her. The letter that ended it was 2 paragraphs long, and it was written by Chief Bo Danner, and it is framed on a wall now at a schoolhouse in Quantico. And it says in part, I stood in the back of that tent and I heard a Marine sergeant read the ground correctly in front of 40 men, and I did not open my mouth because it was easier. 11 hours later, she saved my life and the lives of every man I am responsible for. If this institution wants to punish somebody for what happened in that valley, I am available. I was there. I said nothing. She said everything. There is not a court in this country that can convince me those are the same crime. They gave her the Navy Cross. She almost did not go. That is true too, and only about 6 people know it. She told Bo Danner on the phone that she was not going, and Danner did not argue with her. He just said, Marco is going to be there. And she went. She stood in a room in her dress blues, with her hands finely healed, and let an admiral put a ribbon on her, and the citation was read out loud, and it was 111 words long, and the last sentence of it said that Sergeant Claire Bennett had climbed an obstacle previously assessed as impassable and had held a position for 5 hours and 50 minutes with no support, no resupply, no relief, and no expectation of survival. Ochoa said afterward that the only part of the whole ceremony he remembered was that she looked embarrassed. Marco Reyes recovered. He was medically retired at 25 with 1 kidney and 11 inches of somebody else's intestine and a scar you could set a watch by, and he was not okay for about 2 years, and then he was. He named his daughter Claire. He called Bennett to ask permission, and it was a 9-minute phone call, and 8 of those minutes were Marco Reyes crying and apologizing for crying, and Claire Bennett saying it was fine, and at the end of it, she said the only thing she could think of. Marco, yeah, you said West. Sergeant, listen to me. Your commander had nothing left. He had run out. He was standing there with 11 men and no ammunition and no ideas, and you were on the ground with a hole in you, and you said West. Marco, you are the one who got them to the wall, not me. I was just on the wall. You are the one who told them the wall was there. Sergeant, I just repeated what you said. Yes, Claire said. You listened to me. That is all it ever was. In 4 years, one person on that entire task force listened to me, and it was a 24-year-old kid with a hole in his side, and that is the reason 12 men came home. There was a long silence on the phone. Sergeant? Yeah. Can I say something dumb? Go ahead. They called you the ghost because they thought you were not there. I know. Sergeant, you were there the whole time, Marco Reyes said. You were there 4 hours before we were. Claire Bennett stayed in the Marine Corps. That is the part people always get wrong when they tell this story. They want her to walk away. They want the ending where she throws the ribbon in a drawer and buys a cabin and never speaks to the institution again. And it is a good ending, and it is not what happened. She stayed 11 more years. She taught at the Scout Sniper School. She was very hard and very quiet and absolutely no fun at all. And she made every student in every class do one thing on the first day that nobody understood until years later. She made them read terrain, and then she made them say it out loud in front of the whole class, and then she made them say it again louder. And if they mumbled, she made them do it a 3rd time. A student asked her about it once, a young corporal, 19 years old, who had no idea who she was. Sergeant, why do we have to say it loud? And Claire Bennett said, because someday you are going to be the only person in the room who is right, Corporal, and there is going to be somebody standing there with more rank than you and less information than you, and he is going to look at you like you are furniture, and you are going to have about 4 seconds to decide whether you are going to say it anyway. What happens if I say it and he does not listen? Then you go early, she said. Sergeant, you go early, Corporal. You get to the position before anybody tells you not to. Because being right does not save anybody. Being there does. Ray Bennett died in Bozeman when Claire was 36. She was there. She got compassionate leave and she sat in that room for 9 days, and he was mostly gone by then. But on the second to last day, he came back for about 40 minutes and he knew who she was, and he asked her about her work. She told him. She told him the whole thing in a voice she had never used with anybody, and it took an hour. And when she finished, Ray Bennett, who was not a talker, who had told her exactly one true thing in his entire life, said the second one. Claire, Dad, that colonel in the tent. Yeah, he is the parking lot, Ray Bennett said. You understand? That is what a parking lot is. It is not a place. It is a man who is comfortable. And Claire Bennett put her forehead down on her father's hand and stayed there for a while. 11 men from a valley in northern Afghanistan showed up to his funeral. All of them, from 4 states and 2 countries in one deployment. Ethan Walker flew in from Virginia. Bo Danner drove 19 hours from Michigan because he does not fly anymore. Dale Hollis came with his wife. Ochoa came with nothing at all because Ochoa never brought anything anywhere and stood in the back of a church in Montana in a suit that did not fit and cried through the whole thing. Marco Reyes brought his daughter. She was 6. Afterward, in the parking lot of a church in Bozeman, a 6-year-old girl named Claire Reyes looked up at a Marine sergeant she had been named after and asked the question children ask, "Are you the one who saved my daddy?" And every adult in that lot stopped moving. Claire Bennett crouched down in the gravel in her dress blues and thought about it for a second, and then she gave the little girl the only honest answer she had ever had. "No, sweetheart," she said. "Your daddy saved himself. He got shot, and he still remembered something a sergeant told him 14 hours earlier, and he said it out loud when he could barely breathe, and 11 men listened to him. That is what saved your daddy. So what did you do?" "I was up on a rock." "Why by him?" "Because somebody had to be." Claire said, "and nobody else was going to go me on." The girl thought about that with total seriousness. "Was it scary?" Yes." "Were you by yourself?" And Claire Bennett looked up over the top of a 6-year-old's head at 11 middle-aged men standing in a church parking lot in Montana who had driven and flown across the world to bury a man they never met because he was her father. "No," she said. "It turns out I was not." They never called her the ghost again. Not once. Not in 11 years, not in a schoolhouse, not in a hallway, not as a joke, not as anything. The word died in that valley at 4:06 in the morning when a Marine sergeant keyed a microphone and told 12 Americans that she was 210 meters above them and had been there for 4 hours, and every man who heard it understood in one instant that she had never been invisible at all. They had just never bothered to look up. The valley is quiet now. The wreck was hauled out in pieces. Dale Hargrove is in a cell in Kansas, and Grant Mercer is in a cell in Colorado, and neither of them has ever been asked a question in public again. But in a schoolhouse in Quantico, on a wall next to a framed letter from a Navy chief who did not open his mouth when it counted and spent the rest of his life making up for it, there is a photograph of a 5'4" Marine with bleeding hands standing at the bottom of a rock face at 7:52 in the morning, and 11 United States Navy SEALs standing in a line in the dirt waiting for her. Under it, there is one line. It does not say Navy Cross. It does not say 54 rounds or 60 confirmed or 210 meters. It says the only thing that ever mattered about that night, the thing a mountain rescue specialist said to his daughter in a truck in Montana when she was 11 years old and did not understand it yet. You cannot rescue anybody from the parking lot. Claire Bennett was never the strongest soldier in that valley. She was never the highest ranking. She was never the one anybody asked. She was simply the one who went early alone in the dark on a rock everyone swore could not be climbed because she believed that somebody down there might need her. And when the shooting stopped and the sun came up over northern Afghanistan, 12 Americans walked out of a place that had been built to bury them. Every single one.